Chapter 9:15. Spoilers were fun. Spoilers were fun all the time. However, Jun Changshao was very depressed now. Although the side mission spoiled the opportunity left behind by Reverend Guanhai, the light that pierced through heaven and earth was clearly telling the martial artists that he was here and they could come and snatch it. Dear participant, any opportunity left behind by a mighty being that has been unsealed will be announced on the battlefield. The female system said. Jun Changshao was speechless. Opportunities are a fatal temptation to martial artists. The upper realm announcing it so loudly is also deliberately driving them to kill. Everyone wanted good things related to martial arts. If no one was willing to give up, then they could only kill each other. The system said, "Host, you see through it very clearly." In fact, the martial artists from various major planes also saw through it very clearly. Although they knew that the upper realm used it to stimulate killing, they still did not tire of participating. Because the opportunities in the battlefield were all left behind by the mighty beings of the upper realm. Even the most ordinary brick was many times better than the bricks in their own world. This was not. As soon as the heavy voice ended, the camera panned to the farthest distance. They could clearly see martial artists flying out of their own strongholds and then rushing towards the rainbow light that pierced through heaven and earth. They were so fast that they could not be reincarnated if they were too slow. "Let's go." Jun Changshao said, "Let's go take a look." If there was no side mission, he might hesitate whether to join in the fun or not. Now, he had to go because only by seizing the opportunity could he complete the mission. The upper realm used opportunities to set a trap for martial artists to kill without caring about their lives. The system mission was also a trap, forcing Go Sheng to jump into it. As long as the mission was completed and the contribution points were used to develop the sect, even if it was a mountain of swords or a sea of fire, he would jump in without hesitation. Jun Changshao flew out with Ding Xingwang, Jiang Ye, the Purple King, and the King of 100 Hills. The others stayed in the stronghold. This time, the appearance of the opportunity would definitely alarm the powerhouses of various planes. He did not bring his disciples and the Ning brothers because he was worried about accidents. From the Iron Bones sect to the current sect of all times, only sect leader Wang and one disciple fell. It was precisely because of this that they were so careful. Construction can begin now. Li Qingyang retracted his gaze and focused his attention on the stronghold that had expanded to almost 400 square meters. Several brand new plans immediately appeared in his mind. Opportunities and whatnot had no place in his heart at all. Only construction could make him happy and give him a sense of accomplishment. The experts from the various planes were all flying towards the area where the rainbow light had penetrated. Jun Changshao was also a member of the crowd. Normally, with his armed wings, he could have shaken off a lot of people, but he always controlled his flying speed and flew side by side with Ding Xingwang and the others. There were too many experts in the planar battlefield, which made him a little nervous. So, he decided to move together. Patriarch Jiang Ye said, "Just in this region of a few hundred miles, there are 5,000 to 6,000 experts rushing over. Things like opportunities can make a martial artist lose their rationality," Jun Changshao said. Ding Xingwang, on the other hand, was rather worried as he said, "If we swagger over, will we be discovered by the Crimson Sea continent and be collectively targeted?" This, Jun Changshao frowned, then said, "You can change your appearance." As he spoke, he gave each of them a magically modified mask. After they put it on, they all changed their appearances. "Change your clothes too." "Okay." After everyone had changed their appearances, dozens of martial artists flew over from behind. The leader was actually the palace master of the Crimson Sea Continent's Jade Sea Palace, Hong Yao. Patriarch Ding Xingwang transmitted, "They're from the Crimson Sea Continent. Should we make a move?" "No need." Jun Changshao said, "Let's head to the location of the opportunity as soon as possible so that others don't beat us to it." "Okay." Ding Xingwang suppressed the thought of making a move. Hong Yao discovered Jun Changshao and the others, but he only gave them a glance before withdrawing his gaze and leading them towards the rainbow light at full speed. At this time, even if he knew that the people in front of him were martial artists from the Falling Star continent, he might not stop fighting because the appearance of the opportunity was more important than revenge. In other areas, it was also common to see martial artists who originally had grudges against each other glancing at each other before heading towards the Rainbow Light area. Half an hour later, Jun Changshao arrived at the Rainbow Light area. There were people everywhere, and they were all floating in the air. The scene was spectacular. After using his essence spirit to spy, Jiangye transmitted his voice, "Patriarch, there are at least 50,000 people here. If the disciples of the sect of all times had their cultivation, not to mention dominating the Falling Star continent, it would be easy to beat all the planes," Jun Changshao thought to himself. Although there were many experts here, they tacitly did not communicate. Their gazes were all fixed on the strange stone forest in front of them because the rainbow light appeared from there. Pfft! Suddenly, a fart sound was heard. "Comfortable," Jun Changshao said happily. Because the atmosphere was very quiet, his fart immediately attracted the attention of many martial artists. Some of them were surprised, while others looked at him with disdain. Those who entered the dimensional battlefield had a certain level of strength and status. How shameless was he to fart in such a place? Jun Changshao did not care about other people's gazes. Firstly, he was shameless to begin with. Secondly, he was in charge of everything. Why would he care if he farts? In the central area where all the martial artists were looking, there was a stone turntable with a radius of about 2 meters. Because it did not fit in with the surrounding environment, it was easy to guess that it was man-made. At this moment, the red light pierced through the sky. There were intricate patterns on the stone slab, like some kind of strange array. This array seems a little familiar. Jun Changshao squinted his eyes and looked carefully. Finally, he realized and thought to himself, it's similar to the array structure of the Mystic 32 arrays. Buzz! At this moment, the patterns on the stone slab began to dim, and the light that shot into the sky gradually dissipated. The seal is about to break. The eyes of the martial artists surrounding the stone forest immediately burned with desire. Some of them had already begun to secretly unleash their cultivation and gather their energy in their palms. The originally quiet area instantly became exceptionally somber. It was obvious that if some supreme treasure appeared on the stone slab, a storm of blood would definitely break out. "Patriarch," Ding Xingwang said, "this is a bit too much. What do we do later?" Jun Changshao transmitted his voice, "From the current situation, the so-called opportunity should be on the stone slab. If something appears later, we'll wait and see. We'll let the martial artists above charge in first." "Okay," Ding Xingwang replied. The Purple King said indifferently, "Can't we just go and snatch it? That's why you died before you could succeed, and why you were sealed by those Wusheng for so long," the King of 100 Hills said mockingly. As a beast that prided itself on its intelligence, it knew that with so many martial artists present, whoever tried to snatch it first would definitely be hacked to death by the martial artists behind them. The Purple King was instantly enraged by this fellow's embarrassing story, and he suddenly had the urge to rip off his clothes. Caw caw caw. At this moment, the stone slab that had disappeared from the stone slab began to slowly rotate. Then, a thin slit appeared, as if some kind of mechanism had been activated, causing a tightly shut passage to open up in an orderly manner. All the martial artists watched intently. They had already activated all the elements in their bodies to the extreme, and they were completely capable of charging in or attacking at any time. Boom! The stone slab completely opened up, revealing a circular hole. Whoosh! Suddenly, a ray of light flew out from the inside. Then, it landed on Jun Changshao's hand with lightning speed. After the light dissipated, a white egg was revealed. Whoosh! 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 In an instant, more than 50,000 martial artists present turned their heads and locked their eyes on Jun Changshao, as well as the egg in his hand. Their gazes suddenly became unprecedentedly hot. The opportunity left by Reverend Guanhai on the battlefield must be this item. Judging from the desolate aura emanating from the outer layer of the eggshell, It was definitely a rare and extremely high-level beast egg. Jun Changshao was dumbfounded. Egg! How the hell did you fly into my hand? Didn't you fucking set me up? Whoosh whoosh. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Before Jun Changshao had time to show a brilliant expression, the martial artists surrounding him had already unleashed their cultivation. Tens of thousands of people unleashed their power at the same time, creating a blast of air that blew his black hair into a mess, and he could not even open his eyes. Bang! At this moment, the Purple King, who was standing next to him, exploded his clothes, and a terrifying demonic aura erupted from his body. He roared angrily, "Let's see who dares to come over." Ding Xingwang and the King of 100 Hills also unleashed their power. Logically speaking, the three of them were at the martial sage level, and their auras should be very powerful when they unleashed their power at the same time. However, in the face of tens of thousands of martial artists, they were instantly suppressed. Retreat! Jun Changshao shouted, and immediately activated his armed wings, and flew out with a whoosh. Whoosh whoosh! However, not long after he left, he felt a tsunami-like aura coming from all directions. It turned out that dozens of martial artists had already blocked the way in advance. Damn it! Jun Changshao cursed, and then suddenly waved his hand and threw the egg out. Although this thing exuded a desolate aura, which meant that it was not ordinary, holding it in his hand was like holding a bomb, so it was better to throw it out as soon as possible. As expected, after the egg was thrown out, the martial artists from various planes who had been charging toward him immediately retracted their energy and chased after him as fast as they could. That was close, that was close. Jun Changshao wiped the cold sweat from his forehead, and then transmitted his voice to Ding Xingwang and the others, "We will follow behind." Although the egg had been thrown out, it did not mean that he had given up. He would let the martial artists from various planes fight for it first, and when they were almost done, he would, paw. Before he could finish his thought, he caught the egg that he had thrown out. Damn it! Why did it come back again? Also, why did my hands uncontrollably reach out to catch the egg? Could it be that this was the legendary 100% empty-handed setting? Jun Changshao did not have time to break down and complain, because the martial artists who had been flying away turned around again and charged at him with their cultivation. Therefore, he channeled his energy into his arms and threw the egg fiercely, saying, "Get away from me." Whoosh! The white egg shot out, drawing a beautiful arc in the air, and then turned back at a speed faster than when it had been thrown out. Paw! He reached out with both hands and caught it again. Ah! Jun Changshao's expression collapsed as he screamed, and then he communicated with the power of flight and the armed wings, escaping as fast as he could. Then, he kept throwing the egg down, but it flew back up every time he threw it. The scene was like playing basketball in the air. Ding Xingwang, the Purple King, and the others' mouths twitched. In this day and age, opportunities still stuck to people, and could not be thrown away. Don't look! Quickly come and protect me! Jun Changshao's roar, which was close to breaking down, rang in their ears. Ding Xingwang and the others hurried over, but in the next second, they flew back because the patriarch was now being chased by more than 50,000 martial artists. If they rushed in recklessly, they would definitely not be able to get out. In the face of absolute numbers, even a saint-level expert would not be able to withstand it. Patriarch. Jiangya said telepathically, "Fly to the east, there are fewer people there." Swoosh! Jun Changshao did not have time to use his spiritual sense to explore. He threw the egg out, and then flew to the east, until the egg returned to his hand, and rushed out of the encirclement of tens of thousands of martial artists. The reason why he could run so fast was because of the armed wings, and also because he was being chased by so many martial artists. He could only force himself to activate his little universe. Although he had escaped, the crisis was not over yet. Tens of thousands of martial artists had gone crazy for the egg, so now they were all suppressed. "Old man, hand over the egg, and I won't kill you." "Hand it over, can't you see that it's relying on me?" Jun Changshao roared in his heart as he flew toward the endless sky. Whoosh! At this moment, the space in front of him suddenly shook, and 2 Earth-level martial artists appeared out of thin air, their skinny hands grabbing the egg directly. Seeing that the 2 of them were not coming for him, Jun Changshao heaved a sigh of relief, and secretly thought that it was not bad to be snatched by them, at least he would not be targeted by so many martial artists. Come on, snatch it. I will cooperate with you very much. Swoosh! The egg seemed to have a premonition that it was going to be separated from the hands, and when the 2 martial artists grabbed it, it flew away in a very flirtatious manner. From a professional point of view, this was definitely a god-level prediction and positioning. However, Jun Changxiao's expression collapsed again, because after the egg flew away, the 2 Wuxing's hands grabbed him directly. Boom! Boom! 2 explosions sounded, and Jun Changxiao, who had turned into a full body armor, flew out unsteadily from low altitude. Then, he involuntarily opened his hands and caught the egg in his hands again. Big brother! Are you purposely playing with me? Whoosh! 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 All kinds of energy blasted over from behind, and it was obvious that the tens of thousands of martial artists would not allow anyone to take the egg away. At this moment, Jun Changshao could only fly as fast as he could and completely stimulate his limits. Swoosh! Swoosh! In the sky, a stream of light broke through the sky, and its speed could be said to be extremely fast. Behind it, a black mass of martial artists was chasing crazily. The first thing I say when I wake up every day is to give myself a pep talk. Every time I eat an extra grain of rice, I have to say sorry. Mirror, 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 look at me, where is my collarbone? In the Sect of all times, the magically modified sound system was playing a moving divine song. Lu Wanshi and Yao Mengyao were teaching the new disciples how to dance. Burn my calories. Swoosh! In the battlefield, Jun Changshao stuck out his tongue, hugged the egg, and fled crazily. The calories in his body were burning crazily. Patriarch, hang in there. Ding Xingwang, the Purple King, and the others were chasing from behind. As the Patriarch was flying too fast, they couldn't catch up at all. They could only use telepathy to encourage him. Get lost! Boom! 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 Come, come, take a deep breath. Morning run, night run, swim a few meters. Tablet, dumbbell, rowing machine. Don't give up until you reach your goal. In the Sect, Lu Wanshi and Yao Menjiang were completely unaware that the Patriarch was burning calories at this moment, leading his fellow disciples to dance to the beat. You can't run. If you want to take the egg away, you have to see if I agree or not. Die! Boom, boom, boom. Boom, 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 boom. Come, come, turn around, high-temperature yoga, lie on your back. Moving, cycling, Pilates, and soaked wolfberries in a thermos cup. Paw! After a while, Lu Wanshi turned off the stereo, wiped the sweat on her forehead, and smiled. Today's lesson ends here. Huff! Huff, Jun Changshao, who was in the battlefield, had stopped on a mountain peak. He bent over and took deep breaths. Thousands of martial artists surrounded him, and there were more martial artists behind him. Old Ding. Jiangya, who was far away, said nervously, "What should we do now?" There were so many people surrounding the Patriarch, and the few of them couldn't break in. This was definitely going to be troublesome. Ding Xingwang frowned, and his eyes were filled with determination. If there's no other way, we can only risk our lives and charge in. No need. The Purple King took 2 steps forward and said proudly, "I will deal with them." Ding Xingwang and the others were stunned. If there were only a few hundred people, they firmly believed that Hall Master Z could do it. However, there were close to 10,000 experts present, and there were dozens of half-saints among them. Could he deal with them alone? Ever since I transformed into a human, I didn't use my true form even when I was sealed by 5 trash. Today, for him, I can only. The Purple King spread out his fingers, and his eyes suddenly became extremely cold. I will make an exception this time. Chapter 9:16. True Form. Ding Xingwang and Jiang Ye's eyes widened. They already knew that the Purple King was a beast from the upper realm, but he had always been in human form. He liked to fight naked, but they had never seen his true form. To be able to fight so many Earth-ranked powerhouses alone, this guy's true form must be very powerful, right? Or perhaps it was a colossus that was hundreds of feet tall. Ding Xingwang and Jiang Xia immediately began to fantasize, their eyes filled with the intense luster of anticipation that only readers would have. Crack! Suddenly, the craggy monster king clenched his fists, and a violent purple aura surged out of his body. Purple lines gradually appeared on his naked body, and quickly spread out like a formation. The King of 100 Hills was shocked. The demonic aura was so strong that it had the urge to bend its knees and worship. That guy once said that he was the king of the beast race. Could it be true? Whoosh whoosh. The demonic aura was still increasing. The Purple King's eyes gradually turned purple, as if he had entered a berserk state. Bastards! He smiled coldly and said, "Prepare to be horrified." However, while the Purple King activated his true form here, tens of thousands of martial artists in the distance still locked onto Jun Changshao and the white egg in his hand. They would not allow anyone to take away the opportunity left behind by Reverend Guanhai. Everyone. After a short breather, Jun Changshao straightened his back, his eyes filled with murderous intent, and said, "I advise you to leave quickly, or else, buzz." The space shook slightly, and a pocket-sized knife appeared out of thin air. This was the hard blade. Ever since he had improved and obtained a brand new opening seal talisman, Jun Changshao had finally used it. It seemed that today, not only could they witness the Purple King's true form, but they could also see the amazing performance of the modified First Wish weapon. A knife? So small. Maybe it's a hidden weapon treasure. Back in the Black Wind Stockade, Jun Changshao took out the hard blade and was laughed at by a group of bandits. However, in the battlefield plain where experts were as common as clouds, no one dared to underestimate him. After all the martial artists who could come here had some strange trump cards. "Old man." An expert sneered, "Do you plan to fight against tens of thousands of us?" Jun Changshao held the white egg in one hand and the two fingers of the other hand pinched the unstoppable blade. His eyes were cold as he said, "If it's really unavoidable, why not make an enemy of the whole world?" "Humph." The expert from a certain continent said coldly, "As long as you hand over the egg, we won't make things difficult for you." Jun Changshao collapsed. Are these fucking blind people? Can't they see that an egg is latching onto them? Everyone, don't waste your breath on this guy. Let's attack together. Whoever gets the egg will depend on their luck. Someone suggested. All right. Go, go. Hoo. In an instant, the cultivation of tens of thousands of people burst forth once again, forming a kind of might that immediately pressed down like a mountain. Not to mention the dozens of Earth-level powerhouses among them, just the formation of tens of thousands of yellow-level powerhouses releasing their cultivation at the same time was enough to make top powerhouses panic. Jun Changshao was panicking now. But now that he was trapped on the mountain peak and couldn't break out, he could only take a gamble. His soul instantly merged into the space ring and pinched the opening seal talisman in his hand. Just as Jun Changshao was about to crush the talisman, a strong demonic aura suddenly emerged in the distance, instantly overshadowing the eruption of tens of thousands of people. What a terrifying demonic aura! The martial artists who were about to rush over all turned their heads to look. Roar! Suddenly, an earth-shattering roar was heard, bringing along a manic airwave that blew everyone's hair into a mess. When they got used to it, they all widened their eyes. Jun Changshao, who was about to crush the opening seal talisman, was stunned on the spot. In his field of vision, a huge creature that seemed to be both real and fake and hidden in the sky appeared. From its shape, it looked like a whale. No, it wasn't a whale. Judging from its huge body, it was obvious that it had accidentally evolved into a kun because it thought that his wife had repeatedly made mistakes in refining a useless pet. Wait a minute. The creature's body looked like a fin, But why was it wearing red underwear? When Jun Changshao saw Ding Xingwang and the others standing behind the huge creature, he was shocked. Could it be that this is the real body of Hall Master Z? That's right. It was the real body of the Purple King. In the words of the upper realm, this was a purple vast Kun that was comparable to a divine beast. A Kun beast that was hundreds of feet long and looked like a mountain was suspended in midair. All the martial artists present were deeply shocked. This is a Kun. A strange beast that only exists in the upper realm. There were many experienced and knowledgeable martial artists among the martial artists. They immediately identified the type of beast that appeared in front of them. The purple vast Kun turned its huge eyes, showing a strong sense of disdain. A bunch of human scum, how lucky you are to be able to see my extraordinary real body. The aura of this beast is only at the earth level. It's obviously still in the growth stage. Could it be that this is the opportunity left behind by Reverend Guanhai? Everyone's eyes were suddenly filled with passion. Whoosh! Whoosh! In an instant, everyone ignored Jun Changshao and locked their eyes on the purple vast Kun. The excitement in their eyes had reached its peak. Although they could not be sure whether the white egg was an opportunity or not, for the time being, capturing a strange beast that had reached the earth level was obviously more cost-effective than snatching the egg. At least they could use it after subduing it, instead of hatching it and spending a lot of effort to cultivate it. Moreover, it was a Kun. The purple vast Kun that was a little arrogant at first realized that everyone was staring at it. It suddenly felt that something was wrong. Hall Master Z. At this moment, Jun Changshao said telepathically, since you've unleashed your real body to attract the firepower, I won't let you down. I'll retreat first. Whoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, he retracted his sword and ran away with the white egg. As all the martial artists were staring at the purple vast Kun, no one chased after them. An egg was an egg after all. It was a true upper realm strange beast in front of it. Seeing that Jun Changshao had already flown far away, the purple vast Kun roared in its heart, I transformed into my real body to save you, but he ran away first. What kind of person is he? Wait a minute. Where did Ding Xingwang, Jiang Ye, and the King of 100 Hills disappear too? Hall Master Z. A voice sounded in its ear, I didn't expect your real body to be so strong. I believe it won't be a problem to deal with tens of thousands of martial artists. We'll return with the Patriarch and wait for your return at the stronghold. Only then did the purple vast Kun realize that the three of them had already flown far away and left with the Patriarch. Fuck! You bunch of bastards! Whoosh whoosh! Whoosh whoosh whoosh! At this moment, violent energy blasted in from all directions. The tens of thousands of martial artists that surrounded Jun Changshao had already given up on chasing the egg and were attacking the purple vast Kun. Boom boom boom. Boom boom boom. There were explosions and shockwaves spread everywhere. Jun Changshao, who had already flown to a safe area, turned around and looked at the colorful area in the distance, saying, Hall Master Z. The first motto of the sect of all times is to do things with iron bones and be men with iron bones. You must persevere, you must persevere. Ding Xingwang said in admiration, in order to help the Patriarch attract the attention of the enemy, you're putting yourself in danger. This awareness is truly a role model for our generation. Hall Master Z's brilliance at this moment is enough to illuminate the ages. Jiang Ye also gave him a respectful look. The King of 100 Hills, who had never liked the Purple King, gave him a thumbs up and said, I thought this guy was a pervert, but I didn't expect him to be so manly. Chapter 9:17. Inside the falling star continent stronghold. Li Qingyang's brows were tightly knitted. This kind of town-like construction was different from the construction of a sect because it would expand in the future. Therefore, the layout had to connect the past and the future, and not just randomly build one in the east and another in the west. Sigh. Li Qingyang rubbed his temples and said, if it can expand a little more, it will be easier to build. Currently, there was only one main hall in the falling star continent stronghold. Although it had expanded a lot after a few sneak attacks, there was still not much space for reasonable construction. Even the cleverest housewife could not cook without rice. Building in such a small space was a big test for Li Qingyang. Second senior brother. Xiao Ziji exclaimed, the stronghold has suddenly expanded. Li Qingyang, who was thinking, came back to his senses and found that the stronghold had indeed expanded by about a meter. He said solemnly, the patriarch should have already fought with the existential plane cultivators. Swish! Swish! At that moment, the stronghold expanded again by about 5 to 6 meters. This! Everyone was stunned. Expanding to such an extent meant that someone on their side had killed many cultivators in an instant. Second senior brother. Xiao Ziji frowned and said, will the patriarch and the others be okay? I hope so, Li Qingyang said. Although he was also very worried, the patriarch had repeatedly told him not to leave the stronghold before leaving, so he could only wait and not fly out. Swish, swish, swish. At that moment, the stronghold expanded by a lot. From the distance, it was at least more than 20 meters. So many. Could it be that more than 40 existential plane cultivators were killed in an instant? Swish, swish, swish. The stronghold expanded again, and this time, it expanded to at least, nearly 100 meters. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others widened their eyes. According to the patriarch, killing an existential plane cultivator would increase the area by about half a meter. Now that it suddenly increased by nearly 100 meters, it was equivalent to killing nearly 200 people in an instant. Senior brother. Long Xiang said in shock, I'm afraid the patriarch and the others are fighting madly right now. Martial artists from the Falling Star continent have killed 146 yellow-class martial artists and 72 mystic-class martial artists. They have gone berserk. Level 2 bounties are being issued, and the reward is 5,000 merit points. A heavy voice suddenly sounded in the sky. Li Qingyang and the others were dumbstruck. Judging from the number of people killed and the expansion of the stronghold, it was obvious that it was done by one person. Only Hall Master Z would be able to do such a thing. Level 2 arrest warrant? Li Qingyang frowned and said, this is a bit tricky. Xiao Longlong and the others had previously been Grade 3 fugitives, and that had already attracted the attention of countless powerful beings from various material planes. Now that someone had become a Grade 2 fugitive with a bounty of 5,000 merit points, even more people would probably go crazy. Not bad. After hearing the voice in the sky, the various Earth-ranked powerhouses who originally did not participate in the fight for the opportunity flew out one after another, rapidly approaching the red light that pierced through the heavens and earth. 5,000 merit points. What kind of concept was that? Just by killing martial artists of the same cultivation level, one would need to kill 500 people to get enough merit points. The person who was on the wanted list was definitely a super fat sheep. Swish! Swish! Just as the Earth-ranked powerhouses from various material planes were moving out, the Falling Star continent's stronghold was still expanding crazily. In about a few minutes, it had increased from the original base to nearly 500 square meters. Li Qingyang's mouth twitched violently. He had just felt that the stronghold's area was not big enough, and that it would be inconvenient to build it himself. Now, it was very spacious. Boom! Boom! In the sky above the mountain where Jun Changshao was previously, all kinds of energy erupted crazily, dyeing the originally gray and dark environment into a riot of colors. The Purple King, who had activated his Kun transformation, dragged his 1,000 feet long body and angrily opened his mouth, instantly spewing out an energy wave that seemed to be able to pierce through space. Retreat! Everyone exclaimed. However, in the area where the energy wave swept past, nearly 100 yellow-ranked powerhouses were unable to dodge and were instantly turned into nothingness in the purple light. It was no wonder that the Falling Star continent's stronghold had expanded so much in an instant. Just this kind of energy explosion from its mouth was enough to kill 100 martial artists. It was really too powerful. Boom! Boom! Although the Purple King transformation had killed many people, it was also bombarded by all kinds of energy from the other material plane's powerhouses. Although the beast's defense would be greatly enhanced after transforming into its true form, facing the bombardment of tens of thousands of martial artists still brought about great pain. Roar! The Purple King transformation roared angrily, and the purple light around its body shone brightly. Then, it instantly shot out streaks of light that resembled guided missiles, mercilessly bombarding the crowd. Boom! 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 Purple cannonballs rained down on the ground like rain. Many powerhouses from various material planes were unable to dodge in time and were instantly turned into nothingness. Even the weakest of these martial artists was comparable to an Emperor-class cultivator. If they were on the Falling Star continent, they would be considered a powerhouse. Now, on the battlefield, they were like weeds being harvested crazily. Go! Injure this beast first. Whoosh! Whoosh! Dozens of Earth-class powerhouses gathered their strongest light and blasted it. Boom! 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 All kinds of energy tore through space and pressed down from all directions, finally landing on the Purple King transformation's body with great precision. Because its body had enlarged, it could only endure all kinds of attacks and endure all kinds of pain. Then, it continued to gather terrifying demonic aura to form purple cannonballs that blasted everything around it. Boom! Boom! Purple energy waves and energy balls exploded wildly. The scene of the Purple King transformation fighting tens of thousands of martial artists was extremely shocking. Unfortunately, with dozens of Earth-class powerhouses present, it was impossible for it to kill its way out. At most, it could kill one and earn one. Ah! The Purple King transformation endured the pain and roared in its heart, humans are indeed unreliable. It had been kind enough to activate its true form to save that fellow, but in the end, it had attracted all the firepower, and that fellow had escaped. This teammate of his was too decisive in betraying him. No! I can't fight anymore. I have to break out as soon as possible. Otherwise, I'll definitely be in trouble. Roar! The Purple King transformation roared angrily, and its smooth skin, which was very suitable for roasting, suddenly flashed with hundreds of light beams that shot out in all directions. Dodge! Quick, quick, quick! The surrounding martial artists cried out in alarm. Then, they fled as fast as they could. Unfortunately, the yellow and black level martial artists who were closest to them were unable to dodge. They were annihilated on the spot. Even a dozen or so Earth-level martial artists were sent flying far away after receiving the attack. Whoosh! 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 The area of the Falling Star continent's stronghold instantly increased by more than 500 square meters. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others' mouths twitched violently. They could still judge from the increased area that this had definitely killed thousands of martial artists in an instant. There were tens of thousands of martial artists, and there were even more martial artists chasing along the red light, so this amount of casualties didn't count for much. However, when the hundreds of purple light beams dissipated, and everyone prepared to continue attacking, they realized that the Purple King transformation had disappeared into thin air. Where's that beast? The Kun has the ability to hide in space. It must have taken the opportunity to escape. Look, it's over there. Everyone turned their heads to look and saw a phantom moving at high speed in the air a few dozen miles away. Chase! Don't let it get away. Whoosh! Whoosh! In an instant, tens of thousands of martial artists charged toward the rippling space. Damn it! The Purple King transformation, who was hiding in space, saw a large group of martial artists charging in from behind, and his eyes were filled with anger. His ability to hide in space and move stealthily could even move unimpeded in the dragon race's territory. Now, because he was covered in injuries from the bombardment, he was discovered after only hiding for a few dozen miles. It was a great humiliation. Dao Fusion. Golden Spirit Annihilation. Wild Wolf Finger. Broad Face Sweep. The famous martial arts of the various Earth-class powerhouses came from behind crazily. When the Purple King transformation saw this, he knew that he couldn't avoid it. He could only gather the purple demonic aura in his body and prepare to meet it. Boom! Boom! Multicolored energy exploded in midair, instantly sweeping up a violent storm. The Purple King transformation was dumbfounded. Because the energy didn't hit him. Instead, it was blocked by a defensive air wall. Jun Changshao, who was wearing a mask, stood in the area of the energy explosion. The three forms of the mechanical armed wings were fully activated. The spirit armor, 9 phosphor armor, and the True Yang 4-piece set were all activated. Baby! With his back facing the Purple King transformation, he said with a smile, "Why would I leave you behind?" The Purple King transformation had goosebumps. Next! Jun Changshao raised his hand, and the unstoppable blade appeared out of thin air. He held the hilt with 2 fingers and looked at the dozens of Earth-level mighty ones charging at him. His eyes were cold as he said, "Leave this bunch of trash to me." Chapter 9:18. Jun Changshao might abandon his teammates, but he would never abandon his own people. Thus, when he heard the Class 2 arrest warrant in the sky, he returned without hesitation. Where was the white egg? He had already placed it in the incubator. Once the clingy little thing entered, it was immediately isolated. Even if it wanted to fly out, it couldn't break through the barrier. Leave this bunch of trash to me. The fully armed Jun Changshao stood in front of Zitsong's Kun and summoned hard to retract blade once more. While holding the scabbard with 2 fingers, the soul in the ring also pinched the opening talisman with its fingers. Injuring my faction's people. This was an unforgivable thing. Thus, he didn't care about becoming enemies with all the warriors on the battlefield. At that moment, standing in front of Purple Vast Tao Kun, the fully armed Jun Changshao was like a god of war who had conquered the 9 heavens and destroyed the 8 wastelands, accompanied by a wild wave of background music. Who is this person? A guy who wears a mask and hides his head. The dozens of Earth-ranked warriors who flew over sneered. Their gazes were still focused on Purple Vast Tao Kun. They had already determined that this beast had been beaten black and blue by everyone, so it would be easy to take it down. Get lost! The few Earth-ranked warriors at the front once again condensed high-grade martial arts techniques such as wide face and attacked. The space directly collapsed under the wanton energy. This power was extremely terrifying. However, facing the huge wave of energy, Jun Changshao secretly prayed in his heart, "Old friend, my life and Hall Master Z's life are in your hands. Please don't disappoint me." Although this guy looked calm in the face of danger, he was panicking in his heart. After all, he had never used hard to keep blade after the modification, so he didn't know how powerful it was. Although he wasn't confident, since things had developed to this point, he could only place his hopes on this divine weapon given by the first wish. Swoosh! Jun Changshao suddenly pulled back his hand. His black hair fluttered in the wind as he shouted, "Bankai!" Swoosh! The sound of a saber being unsheathed reverberated in the sky. The surrounding space instantly turned from a gloomy state to daytime. It was so dazzling that it was difficult for the various experts charging over to open their eyes. Their hearts were filled with shock. The light quickly dissipated, and everyone's vision was restored. They hurriedly looked over, and their eyes immediately widened. All kinds of martial skill energy seemed to be controlled, and they were frozen in place, unable to move forward. The masked man was still standing in the air, but a huge sword that was 5 feet long and 6 inches wide appeared in his hand. From the hilt to the tip of the sword, the 8 characters of heaven, earth, thunder, wind, water, fire, mountain, and lake were written in that order. So this is the modified unstoppable blade. Jun Changshao grasped the hilt of the sword and felt the power that seemed to originate from ancient times. His eyes were filled with disbelief. He thought that the god weapon that the leader was willing to give him might be an 80-meter-long broadsword after it was upgraded. Now that he saw the complete form, he realized that he had guessed wrong. Hoo! The primordial aura emanated from his palms and enveloped his entire body. Jun Changshao said, "Awesome." Shwa! He lifted the unstoppable blade that seemed to weigh 1,000 kilograms with one hand. The camera happened to focus on the other side of the sword. The 8 characters of heaven, earth, water, fire, earth, wind, and Dui were engraved on it. The Book of Changes and the 8 trigrams. This heavy sword that seemed to have a medieval style had been blessed with a mysterious power from the east. Let's fight. Let's fight. Jun Changshao poured spiritual energy into the sword. The first characters on both sides of the sword gradually turned crimson from the first stroke. Then, they spread to the rest of the characters until they covered the Zei and Dui characters. The entire sword instantly erupted with an aura that seemed to be able to shake the world and shake the space. Seeing this, the powerhouses of various dimensions were shocked. At that moment, they could see the space suddenly distorting from the energy released by the sword. The martial skill energy that had been used earlier was gradually collapsing into nothingness under the restraint of some kind of power. What was going on? Shwa! At that moment, Jun Changshao rushed over with the sword in his hand. Hoo, the aura that shook the space swept over and instantly enveloped the few Earth-level powerhouses at the front. This power seemed to be the power of space. After it wantonly came over, it gradually formed some kind of binding power that made it difficult for them to move at all. Die! Jun Changshao suddenly waved his hand. The unstoppable blade tore through the space, forming an unparalleled crimson sword aura that swept past the bound Earth-level powerhouses. Poochie! Poochie! Heads flew, blood splattering everywhere. Zitsong's eyes widened. Killing a few Earth-level powerhouses in an instant? Was this guy's weapon that powerful? Also, they clearly could have dodged, so why did they stand in place and let the sword aura mercilessly sweep past their necks? Zitsong could not understand, because he had not experienced the despair of being targeted by the unstoppable blade and being restrained by its might and could only wait for death. Shwa! Shwa! At that moment, the other fighters from various dimensions had already rushed over. When they saw the few Earth-level powerhouses being killed just like that, they were also shocked. The Kun is already injured. Kill this guy, and we can easily subdue him, someone shouted loudly. Kill! Hoo. In an instant, tens of thousands of energy erupted from all directions. Even a heaven-level powerhouse would not dare to fight against so much energy. However, with the support of the ancient power of the unstoppable blade, Jun Changshao had the determination to fight against the heavens and earth. Shwa! Spiritual energy poured into the sword, and the crimson light of the 16 characters became even more intense. Then, a visible ripple erupted, instantly spreading out in all directions with him as the center. Whoosh! Wherever the ripple passed, the energy that came charging over was instantly frozen in place. Zitsong's Kun was truly stunned at this moment. Releasing the sword aura, to be able to freeze tens of thousands of energy in space, this definitely meant that he had grasped the profound mysteries of space. This sword of his, Zitsong's Kun's eyes locked onto the unstoppable blade, and he was shocked. Could it be a divine weapon? It was not only the energy that was imprisoned, but also the thousands of fighters around. At this moment, they seemed to have turned into lifelike statues, completely unable to move. Their minds were still there. Therefore, when they felt a terrifying pressure harming their bodies, making it difficult for them to move, their eyes were gradually filled with unprecedented fear. As for the fighters who were not affected, they were also pale with fright, because they could clearly sense that there was an undercurrent of power not far in front of them, slightly disturbing them, and their movements would be slowed down. The system said, this is the second form of the unstoppable blade, the absolute sword domain. Once activated, anyone and any energy in the area covered will be forcibly suppressed. Jun Changshao exclaimed, awesome! Although the first form of the unstoppable blade had the ability to control others, the prerequisite was that it had to be locked on. After the second form was activated, it could freeze everything within a few hundred feet, which was absolutely terrifying. There were also many Earth-level powerhouses in the absolute sword domain. This meant that after the upgraded Unstoppable Blade was unsealed, it could completely crush a powerhouse at Wu Xing's level to the ground. With such an awesome trump card, it would not be a problem to directly go to the Taishan zone. Something's not right. Suddenly, Jun Changshao realized that things were not good. Under the Absolute Sword domain, although the thousands of fighters were restrained, the spiritual energy in his spirit core was constantly decreasing, and the consumption rate was several times faster than using various martial arts techniques. The system said, after the host unsealed the Unstoppable Blade, the energy that can control others' movements is converted from spiritual energy in the Dantian, so it is decreasing every minute and every second. This is too fast. Jun Changshao broke down. According to the rate of spiritual energy consumption, he could only hold on for a few minutes at most. There is a risk of being banned if you cheat, the system said. If the host wants to be awesome, he naturally has to pay a price. Understood. Jun Changshao raised his head and locked on to the thousands of fighters controlled by the Absolute Sword domain, and a strong murderous intent immediately appeared in his eyes. For the sake of an egg, they had chased him for thousands of miles. Now that the seal of the Unstoppable Blade had been unsealed, they were as insignificant as ants. Naturally, he would kill them all to expand his dimensional stronghold. If this was the falling star continent, Jun Changshao might have some scruples, but since this was the dimensional battlefield, since killing was the main thing, he could only be fearless. Everyone. He raised the Unstoppable Blade and said with murderous intent, "Have a safe journey." Swoosh! 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 Sword light instantly shook out and filled the sealed space. Those powerhouses who were restrained could not move or speak. There was only fear and despair in their eyes before death. The falling star continent stronghold. Realizing that it had not expanded for a while, Li Qingyang said, "The Patriarch and the others should have stopped fighting by now." Xiao Ziji looked into the distance and said, "I wonder if they have the opportunity to unlock the seal. Let's get to work." Li Qingyang began to assign tasks to everyone. However, before they could move, the stronghold expanded again, 100 meters, 200 meters, 500 meters, 1,000 meters. This, Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others were dumbfounded. The stronghold expanded from the original to more than 1,000 meters in an instant. This meant that they had killed at least 2,000 martial artists. The stronghold's expansion speed was still increasing. In less than a dozen seconds, it had expanded from 1,000 meters to nearly 3,000 meters. The falling star continent's martial artists have killed 4,682 yellow-class martial artists, 329 mystic-class martial artists, and 16 earth-class martial artists in succession. They have entered a frenzied killing mode. A first-class arrest warrant is issued, with a bounty of 20,000 merit points. The heavy voice sounded in the sky and spread across the entire dimensional battlefield in an instant. All the martial artists in the 300-dimensional strongholds heard it clearly and stood rooted to the ground. Oh my God! So many people have been killed. The falling star continent's martial artists have killed 8,982 yellow-class martial artists, 1,229 mystic-class martial artists, and 46 earth-class martial artists in succession. They have entered a frenzied killing mode. A superclass arrest warrant is issued, with a bounty of 100,000 merit points. Just as the martial artists were shocked, the heavy and desolate voice sounded again. For a moment, the entire dimensional battlefield was in an uproar. Frenzied. A superclass arrest warrant. This was definitely something that had never happened before. City Lord. In the main hall of the Nine Heavens Continent stronghold, a martial artist said in disbelief, "The highest class arrest warrant is actually not a first-class arrest warrant. There's a superclass arrest warrant above that." Mo Shangxing said in shock, "This is the first time I've heard of it." From the announcement given by the Upper Realm, the Falling Star Continent's martial artists have killed more than 10,000 martial artists in a short time. Even a heaven-class martial artist can't do that. That martial artist's mouth twitched. The Falling Star Continent's martial artists have killed 23,682 Yellow-class martial artists, 3,456 Mystic-class martial artists, and 62 Earth-class martial artists in succession. They have entered a frenzied killing mode. Lightning punishment retribution has been issued. Hearing this voice, Mo Shangsheng almost fell off his chair. It had only been a short time since the announcement, and the wanted guy had killed more than 10,000 martial artists. Could it be that those martial artists had washed their necks clean and let him cut them off as he pleased? And lightning punishment retribution. City Lord. The elder standing outside the main hall said in horror, "Come out and take a look." Swoosh! Swoosh! Mo Shangsheng and the other elders hurried to the outside of the great hall. They raised their heads and stared in the direction where the fortuitous encounter had appeared, only to see clouds of lightning and thunder rapidly converging, and the originally gloomy sky instantly turned into darkness. At that moment, the entire plain battlefield lost its color and was shrouded in absolute darkness. Could this be? Mo Shangsheng said in horror, "This is the lightning punishment retribution? The stronghold of the Falling Star Continent." Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others were already dumbfounded. The stronghold had expanded to more than 10,000 square meters. It was completely on the scale of a village. Of course, everyone was not shocked by the rapid expansion of the stronghold. Instead, they were shocked by the fact that Hall Master Z had killed more than 10,000 martial artists in a short time. The arrest warrant had been changed continuously, and finally, the lightning punishment retribution had been issued. "Hall Master Z, you might not believe it, but I didn't do it. It was the Patriarch who did it alone. I'm also a little flustered now. I don't know what to do." Lightning punishment retribution. Jun Changshao, who was about to continue killing the martial artists nearby, looked up at the thunderclouds gathering in the sky and frowned. The female system said, "Dear participant, because you've killed too many people in a short time and violated the rules of the upper realm, the lightning punishment retribution is issued as punishment." Jun Changshao said, "Is it very powerful?" The female system thought for a moment and said, "Since the creation of the battlefield, no one has been punished before. So, I'm not sure how powerful it is." Jun Changshao stood on the spot, holding hard to withdraw blade and said proudly, "Lightning punishment retribution? What's there to be afraid of? Patriarch." At this moment, Zitsong sent a voice transmission to him. "The lightning punishment retribution is from the upper realm. It's powerful enough to destroy any target's soul. Don't just stand there. Run. Destroy my soul." Jun Changshao panicked. When he looked back, he realized that the guy had already run away. Obviously, he was worried that he would be implicated if the lightning punishment retribution struck. He, who had planned to fight against the thunderclouds in the sky, suddenly changed his mind. He hurriedly activated the mechanical armed wings and escaped as fast as he could. Zitsong had already run a few dozen miles. Suddenly, it felt the Patriarch chasing after it from behind. Its expression collapsed as it roared, "Don't follow me. Quick! Quick! Go somewhere else. Otherwise, I'll be dragged down by you." Whoosh whoosh! The thunderclouds in the sky moved quickly with Jun Changshao's escape. Then, they enveloped him and Zitsong. Boom! Suddenly, a bolt of lightning that shook the entire planar battlefield shot out from the clouds. The originally dark environment was dyed brightly with light. Oh no! Jun Changshao, who was running away, felt the lightning punishment retribution pressing down from the sky. A strong ominous feeling instantly surged into his heart. Ah! Zitsong Dao Kun roared loudly. It could have easily avoided it, but that guy just had to run in the same direction as it. In the end, it was also enveloped by the lightning punishment retribution. Boom! The lightning punishment retribution from the upper realm exploded and struck down fiercely. The moment the power exploded, all the martial artists in the dimensional battlefield felt the ground shake violently. They were so frightened that their expressions changed drastically. With such a violent attack, even a heaven-level powerhouse would die without a burial ground. It's over. Mo Shangxing said, the falling star continent martial artists who kill people like flies cannot escape the lightning punishment retribution. Their souls should have been destroyed by now. Being killed directly by the rules. This has never happened before. It's not hard to see from this. Although the upper realm deliberately allows the mortal dimensional battlefield to kill, there are still restrictions. Mo Shangxing said, when the restrictions are exceeded, even if no one can do anything, they will use absolute power to kill. In the punishment retribution area, the ground cracked. The violent lightning element rampaged wildly, and a tear appeared in the space from top to bottom. Obviously, this tear was left behind by the lightning punishment retribution. The 10 to 20,000 martial artists who did not die under Jun Changxiao's sword were now standing in midair in fear. Their legs and hands were twitching violently. Plop! Plop! Many yellow powerhouses fell to the ground and then collapsed. The lightning punishment retribution was the closest to them. Although they were not affected by the power, they felt the terrifying power after the lightning punishment retribution. It was as if they had taken a trip through hell. Is this the power of the upper realm? It's too scary. At that moment, I felt like, no, not even an ant. That Kun beast and the guy in the mask should be dead. Many martial artists were still in a state of shock as they discussed. Not only were they frightened by Jun Changxiao's terrifying massacre, but they were also frightened by the lightning punishment retribution. At this moment, no one cared about the opportunity left behind by Venerable Guanhai. Huff huff. Huff huff huff, the lightning element was still wreaking havoc. However, after it gradually dissipated, the martial artists who had been spared from the massacre widened their eyes. This was because dozens of miles away from where the lightning punishment retribution had struck, there was actually a tall tower emitting a desolate aura. I'm actually still alive. In the illusory space, the Purple King said in disbelief. When the lightning punishment retribution struck, he had reverted to his human form. Because his body was huge, he would definitely die if he endured the lightning punishment retribution. If his body was small, he might have a chance to survive. However, the Purple King did not expect that when the lightning punishment retribution struck, the Patriarch waved his hand. The scene in front of him suddenly changed, and then he appeared in this illusory place. Wah! Jun Changxiao, who was sitting cross-legged next to him, spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was pale as he said, This upper realm's lightning punishment retribution is indeed terrifying. At the critical moment of life and death, he took out the Heaven Origin Soul Suppressing Pagoda and activated its defensive mode. The lightning punishment retribution from the upper realm was very powerful. He could only gamble on whether this thing could withstand it. He was not disappointed. The Heaven Origin Soul Suppressing Pagoda in its defensive mode successfully withstood the lightning punishment retribution. Huff! Huff! Suddenly, the violent lightning attribute appeared. Very quickly, it enveloped the entire space and filled it. This is, the Purple King said in shock, the lightning punishment retribution that struck down just now. Wang! Area appeared in front of Jun Changxiao out of thin air. She pouted and said, the attack just now was very powerful. I only absorbed half of it. The other half was wasted. The Heaven Origin Soul Suppressing Pagoda's defense system had two types. One was to absorb the energy into the pagoda, and the other was to purely resist. The lightning punishment retribution was very explosive. Area could only swallow half of the energy the moment it came into contact with it, and then forcefully trap the other half. Otherwise, Jun Changxiao would have died long ago. It's good that you're fine. It's good that you're fine. Go Sheng was very satisfied now because nothing was more important than being alive. Master. Area took out a small leather whip and said with a smile, these absorbed lightning attributes, I have to train them well. Jun Changxiao said. Smack. 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 Area waved the sexy leather whip and whipped it crazily in the air. The lightning punishment retribution was instantly whipped into a human form, and then they shivered in the corner. This. The Purple King's eyes widened. Wasn't the attribute energy formless? How could it be whipped? How could there be whipping sounds? Master! Arya looked at the Purple King, who was wearing red underwear, and said in disdain, "Does this guy need to be trained?" "Little girl." Hall Master Z said with a cold gaze, "Watch your words." Swish! Swish! As soon as he said that, red ropes flew out from the void and tied him up, hanging him in midair. Smack! Arya walked over with the leather whip and said coldly, "This is my territory. Don't be arrogant." Chapter 9:19. Damn it! The Purple King, who was tied up, said angrily, "If I wasn't injured, I would have trampled you under my feet." The king of the beast race could never back down. Smack! Arya lashed out with her whip, and the Purple King screamed in pain. It felt as if she had hit the deepest part of his soul, and it was very unpleasant. "Girl, don't mess around." Jun Changshao said, "This is my subordinate." Ah! Arya looked at the Purple King in disdain and said, "Why does Master have such a perverted subordinate?" Jun Changshao was speechless. Whoosh! Arya retracted the rope that bound him. If it were not for Master's sake, she would definitely teach this exhibitionist a lesson. The Purple King was tactful. He knew that he was injured and his strength was greatly reduced, so he stopped talking after he was freed. Jun Changshao looked at the thunder-type beings that had been beaten into their human forms and were shivering in fear. He said, "You can also purify the energy from the upper realm?" "No problem," Arya said. As the golden prison head of the Tianyuan soul-suppressing tower, as long as she locked the prisoners in, no matter where they came from, she could definitely train them to be obedient. Jun Changshao said, "Have you purified those attributes from before?" He was talking about the strange attributes that made Shi Jingxian lose her mind and go berserk. According to the girl, it would be done in a month or two. Because he was busy with the battlefield and construction recently, he had forgotten about it. "Master, the purification is complete." Arya snapped her fingers, and an energy similar to a crystal core appeared in the space. She said, "I made it into a spirit core." Spirit core? Jun Changshao was stunned. Arya explained, "Only the attributes that have been purified can be sealed in the spirit core. Master, you can take it and absorb it at will. These attributes can make people lose their minds before, so there shouldn't be any side effects after being purified, right?" Jun Changshao said. "Master." Arya pouted and said, "I'm a professional at purifying things that are not clean." "That's fine." Jun Changshao stored the spirit core into his spatial ring, wondering if he should give it to Shi Jingxian. After all, the energy was absorbed from her body. "I'll make a trip to Ingenious Flower Palace when I have the time. We have to return to the stronghold as soon as possible." Jun Changshao was still in the unsealed state of hard-to-retract blade, so he would definitely be in a weakened state. Therefore, he naturally had to return to the safe zone while he still had time. Go! With a thought, he brought the Purple King to the outside world. Hoo-hoo! A cold wind blew over. There was still a trace of violent lightning attribute in the air. Shwa! Jun Changshao waved his hand and retrieved the Heaven Origin soul-suppressing pagoda. Holding the saber that was clearly a sword, he sped toward the falling star continent. Suddenly, he was shocked to find that the crimson light on his body had disappeared. Puzzled, he asked, "Could it be that I was cleansed by the lightning?" The red light around the Purple King had also disappeared. The female system explained, "Dear participant, after the lightning punishment of the upper realm, the accumulated kill points will be automatically reset to 0, regardless of whether the target is killed or not." I knew it. Recalling the powerful lightning punishment just now, Jun Changshao said bitterly, "If it weren't for the Heaven Origin soul-suppressing pagoda, I would have been dead even if I were cleansed." The power of the upper realm was terrifying. That guy. He's not dead. He's still alive. Dozens of miles away, the surviving powerhouses from the upper realm widened their eyes when they saw Jun Changshao appear out of thin air. The terrifying lightning strike just now had deeply shocked them. They firmly believed that if they were in his shoes, they would have died without a burial place. And he shouldn't be alive. Everyone. Jun Changshao also noticed the martial artists in the distance. He shouted coldly, "I'll remember the grudge of today's siege. I'll definitely come back for revenge one by one in the future." There were restrictions on hard to retract blade. He could not be allowed to act recklessly, so he could only leave some harsh words. The corners of the martial artists' mouths twitched. "We did besiege and kill you, but in the end, so many of us were killed instead. You're not injured at all. Even if we're going to leave some harsh words, it should be us." Whoosh! Jun Changshao and the Purple King moved at full speed and soon disappeared from sight. The surviving martial artists from the upper realm did not dare to chase after them because they knew that the guy with the big sword was too terrifying. They were lucky that he did not come back to kill them. Who the hell is he? From the announcement, he must be a martial artist from the Starfall continent. This guy called himself I. Could he be the patriarch of the strongest sect in history? His voice sounds familiar. It's him. In the beginning, Jun Changshao used the voice of an old man. When he returned to save the Purple King, he reverted to his original voice, so everyone had more or less guessed his identity. It did not matter anymore. After all, the disguise was only used to make it easier to snatch the opportunity. Now that the opportunity was in his hands, it did not matter if his true identity was exposed. Whoosh! Whoosh! Two streaks of light streaked across the sky and landed in the Starfall continent's stronghold in the shortest time possible. Jiangye, Ding Xingwang, and the others had also returned. Patriarch. Seeing Jun Changshao return safe and sound, everyone's tense hearts immediately relaxed. Hall Master Z. Li Qingyang asked, "Are you okay?" The Purple King crossed his arms and said calmly, "I'm fine." Amazing. Li Fei gave him a thumbs up and said, "You killed tens of thousands of martial artists and were punished by lightning, but you're still fine. Hall Master Z is really amazing." The Purple King's mouth twitched, and then he said reluctantly, "Those were all killed by the Patriarch." Ah! Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others were stunned. Lu Qianqian, who was leaning in front of the main hall, looked at Jun Changshao in surprise. From the announcement of the lightning punishment, more than 20,000 martial artists had died, including dozens of Earth-level martial artists. He did it alone. Unbelievable. He Wudi and Yi Xingqian were shocked. With their previous strength, it would not be a problem to kill so many martial artists, but the Patriarch was only a half-saint. Wait! Why did the big sword in the Patriarch's hand, which was engraved with strange words, emit an ancient and sacred aura? Could it be, He Wudi and Yi Xingqian were shocked? This is a divine weapon from the upper realm. The three of them might be late, but they would never be absent. Sho! Jun Changshao sheathed the sword and made a shushing gesture. Keep a low profile, keep a low profile. Plop! As soon as he finished speaking, he collapsed. The sword could only be used for 60 minutes, and it would lose its effect when it was sealed again after sheathing. So Go Sheng was already weak. He was so weak that he did not even have the ability to move his fingers. The system said, activating the second form of the sword, the weak state will last for 2 hours, and the user will not be able to use spiritual power for a month after recovery. In professional terms, the host is now equivalent to a useless person. Jun Changshao broke down in his heart. As expected, there's a price to pay for cheating. Chapter 920. After unsealing the unstoppable blade, he used his strength to prove how powerful his transformation was. As for the side effects, although it was a little longer than the first form, it was not a big problem with the space-time secret realm. Moreover, compared to the universal talisman's 1 year, a month of weakness was simply too damn good. Patriarch. Li Qingyang hurried over, helped Jun Changshao up, and said, "Are you all right?" It's an old illness." Jun Changshao said weakly, "I feel uncomfortable every once in a while." Everyone understood. They had experienced the patriarch's paralysis many times, so they were already used to it. But could it be that there was no cure for this strange illness that would paralyze every once in a while? There was a cure. As long as Jun Changshao promised that he would not die in the future, he would definitely not fall ill. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the side quest. You have obtained 20,000 contribution points. Ding! Sect contribution points, 4420050000. Ding! Completed the side quest, triggered the hidden reward, obtained experience talisman X2, has been transferred to the space ring. After hearing the notification, Jun Changshao broke down. The elite mission only gives 2 experience talisman? This guy was really arrogant. He actually started to complain that the reward was too little. The female system's voice sounded in his ears, "Dear participant, because you have obtained Guanhai's opportunity, the falling star continent's stronghold has increased by 10,000 square meters." Swish! As soon as she finished speaking, the stronghold's area expanded again. Jiangye and the others, who were inside, casually took a look and found that this place was much larger than before they went to snatch the opportunity. Li Qingyang's eyes lit up. At first, he thought that the stronghold was small, but after 2 large-scale expansions, he could roll up his sleeves and boldly build it. However, he did not immediately make a move. After all, the patriarch was in a weakened state. "Return to the sect," Jun Changshao said. "Yes." Xiao Ziji carried him on his back, and everyone returned to the sect of all times without looking back. Enough fun, they left. However, the news about the opportunity and thunder punishment spread wildly in the various strongholds. One person killed tens of thousands. Heavens! The falling star continent is too terrifying. I heard that even the lightning punishment from the upper realm didn't kill that guy. Jun Changshao had slaughtered tens of thousands of people and survived the thunder tribulation unscathed. It was destined that his name would resound throughout the entire planar battlefield. When the Crimson Sea continent and the other 4 realms received the news, they were instantly filled with worry. So many people were unable to do anything to the other party. Even if they joined forces, they might not be able to gain any benefits. "Palace Master," a Blue Sea Palace elder said in a deep voice, "I believe that we should take our time in dealing with the falling star continent." He had followed his heart. Hong Yao said with an ugly expression, "That guy is the killing god." He was also present when the opportunity left by Old Man Guanhai appeared, but he did not charge to the front. Therefore, he witnessed with his own eyes the scene of Jun Changshao holding a large sword and blocking thousands of people with an explosive aura, taking their lives as easily as cutting grass. To tell the truth, Hong Yao was so scared that he almost peed his pants. Especially after he learned from the cultivators of various realms that that guy was the patriarch of the strongest sect in history. A chill ran down his spine. He actually wanted to join forces with the other realms to become enemies with such a terrifying guy. Wasn't that suicide? "Palace Master." A subordinate rushed in from outside and said, "The sword-wielding continent sent a message, unilaterally dissolving their alliance with the Crimson Sea continent." Hong Yao's mouth twitched. This self-proclaimed noble sword Dao Plane was cowering even faster than him. Not long after, the message of dissolving the alliance between the Xingxian continent and the Lingyun continent also arrived. At this point, the 4 realms that had just been established announced their disbandment before they could even take action after Jun Changshao killed people to the point of madness. This was definitely the most cowardly alliance in the history of the planar battlefield. In the 9 Heavens continent's stronghold, when Mo Shangxing found out that the guy who killed people like flies was Jun Changshao, he sat on the chair in a daze. "City Master." An elder's mouth twitched as he said, "This guy was punished by lightning and left unscathed in front of everyone." The shock in Mo Shangxing's eyes was even stronger. Although he didn't personally witness it, he could tell from the lightning that it was extremely terrifying. Even 10 of him wouldn't be enough to kill him. How could that guy be unscathed? There's only one possibility. Mo Shangsheng thought for a moment and said with a serious expression, the lightning punishment from the upper realm should be controlled by the falling star continent. It looks terrifying, but it's just for show. Hearing this, all the elders agreed. They were more willing to believe that the higher-ups were deliberately going easy on things that couldn't be explained by martial arts. City Master. Another elder said, there's news from the continent. The one in charge of the planar battlefield this time is Empress Lingyao, and she just ascended from the falling star continent. Mo Shangsheng, who wasn't sure at first, slapped the armrest and said, there really is someone above him. In a palace that seemed both real and illusory. The hunchbacked elder walked in and said, my lord, you only gathered half of the lightning punishment's power. If this is reported to the realm hall, I'm afraid there will be a lot of trouble. Lying on the throne and surrounded by clouds, the woman said calmly, he's just a half-saint. It's reasonable for me to use half of the lightning punishment's power. Moreover, don't the people on duty try to fight for benefits for their former mortal realm every time? What's wrong with me lowering the difficulty? The elder fell silent. The Lord was clearly using her position on duty to side with the falling star continent. But thinking about the long-standing unspoken rules, there didn't seem to be anything wrong with it. Sect of all times. Jun Changshao walked out of the space-time pocket energetically, then spread his arms and said, nice. The 1-month side effect of Unstoppable Blade had been completely eliminated under the time acceleration. Moreover, after meditating inside, his understanding of the dragon elephant Prajnapam had improved significantly. Patriarch. Li Qingyang said, when are we going to the battlefield? Jun Changshao knew that this guy was in a hurry to build, so he said, bring Zoe Ji and the others in. Remember, don't leave the base without permission. Li Qingyang said in surprise, Patriarch, you're not going in. I'm going to Wondrous Flower Palace. That day, Jun Changshao set off for this fourth-rate sect that he had established an alliance with but had never visited before. As for Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others, they entered the planar battlefield. They obeyed the Patriarch's orders and were only responsible for construction inside. They wouldn't leave the safe zone easily. Actually, there was nothing to do outside. After experiencing so many fortuitous encounters and killing, everyone was afraid of the falling star continent. No one had the courage to offend them. Wondrous Flower Palace, Main Hall. Jun Patriarch, our palace lord is cultivating. I've already sent someone to inform her. Please wait for a moment, Zhangsun Fanghua said with a smile. After the 9 Poisons Temple incident, this elder's attitude towards Jun Changshao had completely changed. It's fine, it's fine. Jun Changshao sat down and smiled at the female disciple serving tea. Jun is just here to pay a visit. It's nothing important. I'm sorry if I've disturbed Palace Lord Shi's cultivation. Zhangsun Fanghua said, Jun Patriarch, have you heard of the altar's information on the planar battlefield? This, Jun Changshao pondered for a moment, then said, I've heard a little. Chapter 921. Sigh. Zhangsun Fanghua sighed and said, 5 years later, we'll send 2,000 martial artists to the dimensional battlefield. I'm afraid it'll be hard to tell if they'll survive. Good. Another pessimist. Jun Changshao said, Senior Zhangsun, you don't have to worry. Besides, it'll be Wu Huang going. You're only a peak martial king now. He shut his mouth after saying that. Maybe she could break through in 5 years. This was what Zhangsun Fanghua was worried about. She had broken through to peak martial king for a long time. It was entirely possible for her to break through to martial emperor in 5 years. This was equivalent to meeting the criteria. If the first batch couldn't enter, the second and third batch would definitely be sent. Zhangsun Fanghua didn't have the resolve of City Lord Han and the other experts to sacrifice their lives for the continent. She just didn't want to leave Miaohua Palace. After all, she had to share many of the sect's responsibilities. June Patriarch. Zhangsun Fanghua said with a sad expression, 5 years later, if I go to the dimensional battlefield, please help my palace lord. This feeling. It was like making arrangements for her death. Jun Changshao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He said, there's always a way out. Senior Zhangsun, don't be so pessimistic. Speaking of which, the martial artists of the Starfall continent were too unconfident. The next time he went in to cause trouble, should he set up a projection array and broadcast it live to give them confidence? The system said, host, you're thinking too much. The transmission of image signals between single planes is a big problem. The images in a continent could be transmitted through arrays, but the dimensional battlefield and the Starfall continent were two different planes. No one knew how far they were apart. It would be very difficult to transmit them through a projection array. I'm just thinking about it. Jun Changshao thought to himself, if this kind of thing could be transmitted through arrays, it would definitely be a little shocking. Jun Patriarch. At this moment, a light voice came from the side door of the hall. Shi Jingxian, wearing large glasses, walked in. From her attire, she didn't seem to be cultivating. She deliberately dressed up. Palace Lord. Zhangsun Fanghua said, I have something to deal with. I'll take my leave first. And them only Jun Changshao and Shi Jingxian were left in the hall. Jun Patriarch. Shi Jingxian sat on the palace lord's seat and said with a smile, how come you have the time to come to my exquisite flower palace? Since our two sects have formed an alliance, it's only natural for us to interact more. As Jun Changshao spoke, he carefully looked at the woman and found that she was more energetic than before after not seeing her for a while. The Great Elder mentioned the planar battlefield just now. Jun Patriarch has reached the Emperor realm. Even if he's not part of the first batch, he'll be part of the second batch, Shi Jingxian said. Jun Changshao said, I don't care which batch it is. Jun Patriarch's attitude is really good. Shi Jingxian frowned and said, after my elders learned of this matter, they were so worried that they couldn't even eat. It's not a big problem. Jun Changshao said, come to my Sect of All Times cafeteria. I guarantee that the more worried they are, the more they eat. Puchi. Shi Jingxian covered her mouth and laughed. Jun Changshao shrugged and said, actually, the planar battlefield isn't as scary as everyone thinks. As long as you relax, it'll be fine. To him, it wasn't scary, but the cultivators of the falling star continent didn't know. Especially those big shots who were worried about whether they would be bullied by the Crimson Sea continent and Lingyun continent if they entered the planar battlefield. Shi Jingxian said seriously, I'll work hard in the next 5 years. If Jun Patriarch is chosen, She lowered her head and said in a low voice, I'm willing to enter the planar battlefield with you. Oh? Jun Changshao said with a smile, so, Palace Master Shi can break through to the Emperor realm in 5 years? Big brother. Is breaking through to the Emperor realm the important thing? If Elder Wei was here, he would have covered his head and said, I can teach Su Gosheng, but I can never teach Jun Gosheng. Shi Jingxian smiled brightly and said, my talent isn't bad. As long as I focus on cultivation, I should be able to break through to the Wu Huang realm in 5 years. Recovering from her eye disease not only gave her light, but it also gave her absolute confidence. Okay. Jun Changshao said, if I enter the planar battlefield in 5 years, I'll definitely bring Palace Master Shi with me. Shi Jingxian meant that she was willing to experience life and death with him, while Gosheng meant that he was willing to bring her in. Their attitudes were completely different. Oh, right. Jun Changshao took out something similar to a crystal core from his interspatial ring and said, this is the strange attribute I absorbed from Palace Master Shi's body. It's been purified, and I'm here to return it to you. Shi Jingxian was confused. Jun Changshao said, I still have things to do at the sect. Jun will take his leave first. Shi Jingxian personally sent him to the sect gate. Looking at his departing figure, she muttered in disappointment, so he's just here to give me something. After returning to her residence, She took out the translucent spirit core and recalled what Jun Changshao said just now. Puzzled, she asked, "It's been purified?" Shwa! Shi Jingxian released her spiritual sense and fused it with the spirit core. Whoosh whoosh! In an instant, the strange attribute was released from it and then lingered around her body. It fused with her without permission and then gathered in her dantian. That attribute is here again. Shi Jingxuan's face was full of surprise. The strange attribute that was absorbed by the vacuum cleaner had always existed in her dantian. Every time she was depressed, it would erupt like a flood and cause her to enter a berserk state. During the years of treating her eye disease, Shi Jingxian had thought of getting rid of the energy, but she had failed time and time again. Later, when she went berserk in the 9 Poison Temple, the strange attribute was taken away and never returned. It seems to be more docile than before. Shi Jingxian used her mind to communicate with the attribute that had gathered in her dantian and found that it was no longer as irritable as before. Whoosh whoosh! At this moment, the strange attribute seemed to be stimulated by her mind. It immediately flashed and then suddenly spread out, spreading to all the meridians in her body. Zhangsun Fenghua and Ling Xingyue, who were busy, suddenly sensed a strong energy fluctuation in the patriarch's courtyard. They exclaimed in unison, "Oh no, the patriarch went berserk again." They were very familiar with this kind of aura. Shwa! Shwa! In an instant, all the elders of Miaohua Palace rushed to Shi Jingxuan's residence. However, when they landed in the courtyard, they were all dumbfounded because the palace master had just walked out of her room. She was emitting a strong aura, and her strength had increased a lot. However, although her eyes looked a little cold, there were no signs of her going berserk. "Palace master, are you all right?" Zhangsun Fenghua asked softly. Shi Jingxian said, "I'm fine." Zhangsun Fenghua, Ling Xingyue, and the others widened their eyes. The aura emitted by the palace master was obviously consistent with her previous berserk state, but why was she so calm and could even speak normally? Whoosh! Suddenly, the strong aura that gathered around Shi Jingxian dissipated and retracted in her dantian. The coldness in her eyes turned into gentleness as she muttered, "Is this the purification that Sect Master Jun was talking about?" Yes. This was purification. It eliminated the unclean things that originally controlled one's thoughts, leaving behind beneficial energy. Now, Shi Jingxian could enter a cultivation berserk state for a fixed period of time and did not have to worry about losing her rationality. This is amazing. She was secretly shocked. How did Jun Patriarch do it? It was not Jun Changshao who did it, but Arya, who was proficient in whips and candles, did it. At this moment, the lightning tribulation energy trapped in the heaven origin soul suppressing pagoda took human forms and was painfully and happily being trained by it. Sect of all times. After returning, Jun Changshao first went to the dimensional battlefield and saw Li Qingyang leading the disciples to actively dig the foundation. Then, he placed the incubator in the study. This egg is an opportunity left behind by Venerable Guanhai. It means that it came from the upper realm. If it hatches, it will definitely be some rare beast. Jun Changshao took out dozens of crystal cores of decent levels and transferred all the energy inside. Then, he slapped it on the incubation button, and the LED screen immediately showed the words incubation time, 0/30 days. Mutation rate, 0/100. As expected, Jun Changshao broke down. "Hatch it, I'll have to spend money again. Brother." He turned his head and grabbed the camera, saying tearfully, "Recommendation tickets and monthly tickets can increase the mutation rate. I need support." Chapter 922. Back when he hatched the little dragon, in order to let it mutate, Jun Changshao had sold everything he had. Now that he had another egg from the upper realm, he was prepared to spend money. After all, what was the point of playing without spending money? At that time, he didn't have any money. Even if he spent tens of millions, his heart would ache so much that he wouldn't be able to sleep. Now that he had the support of various industries, he had sufficient funds. Come, Jun Changshao took out a large amount of crystal cores. These were all obtained from the 9-star elder. Ding! 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 The crystal core's energy was crazily poured into it. The mutation rate gradually rose from 0 to 50. As a player whose equipment would shatter even with a 95% success rate, Jun Changshao definitely pursued a 100% success rate. Hence, he continued to pour energy in. Discarded crystal cores were thrown on the ground one by one. At this time, if the martial artists of the Starfall continent saw this, their eyelids would definitely twitch. Because if converted into money, it would definitely exceed tens of millions. Jun Patriarch really didn't lack money. Moreover, the crystal cores were snatched from the dimensional battlefield. Spending them didn't hurt at all. After pouring in an unknown amount of energy, the mutation rate on the LED screen finally rose to 100. Okay. Jun Changshao said very comfortably, just wait for 30 days. The little dragon's incubation time was 15 days, and this one needed 30 days. He couldn't help but guess, what kind of awesome beast would it be? Incubation was a long process. Jun Patriarch wouldn't be guarding it every day, so he focused on cultivating and managing the sect. Patriarch. Li Luoqiu reported, the Taishan Shengzong found a small group of demon sect remnants at the Raging Waves Lake. They have already sent experts to encircle and eliminate them. These self-proclaimed righteous sects are really sparing no effort to eliminate the demon sect's martial artists. Jun Changshao shook his head and said. Li Luoqiu said, Little Mo said that it's a good opportunity for promotion and volunteered to go with the sect's experts. Tell him to be careful. Jun Changshao didn't plan on cooperating with Su Xiaoma's act. After all, it was enough for old man Jun Tian to appear once. If he appeared frequently, it would arouse suspicion. I have another piece of news. Li Luoqiu said, spies have reported that all the plants in a valley in the southeast province have withered. During this period of time, she had been developing her intelligence network. She had successfully covered the remote southeast first prefecture and was one step closer to covering all 9 major prefectures. Oh? Jun Changshao immediately took it to heart. After all, it might be related to the soul race that the Array Emperor had mentioned. He definitely would not forget this race that had brought disaster to the falling star continent. Therefore, he had to investigate it as soon as possible. He could not allow the tragedy of the ancient era to happen again. After learning the exact location, Jun Changshao personally went to the southeast Shi province. 2 hours later, he arrived at the valley where the vegetation had withered. Not only did he find many withered skeletons of spirit beasts, but he also found the skeletons of dozens of martial artists. There were fingerprints and claw marks on the ground. It was obvious that they had struggled before they died. They finally couldn't hold back and made a move on humans. Jun Changshao's gaze gradually turned cold. If he didn't find this guy who absorbed the energy of others to improve himself, he would become a scourge sooner or later. In a dark forest, dozens of martial artists were carefully advancing. Walking at the back was a man in a black robe. Because he kept his head down, his appearance couldn't be seen clearly. Little guy. The middle-aged man walking at the front smiled and said, "When we find the opportunity, we will naturally share it with you." "Many thanks." The black-robed man raised his head and smiled. From the appearance and voice, it was indeed Dai Lu, who hadn't appeared for a long time. As a little villain who had lived from the first chapter until now, there were definitely readers who cheered for him here. There were also readers who wished for him to die immediately. "Boss!" a martial artist said, "Found it." While speaking, everyone stopped. There was a natural cave in front of them. Waves of cold wind blew out from inside. It was obvious that a powerful spirit beast was hiding inside. "Little guy," the middle-aged man said, "there is a 1,000-year-old heaven and earth treasure in the cave. You go and lure the spirit beast out. We will take the opportunity to sneak in and take out the treasure. Then we will divide it equally." Dai Lu frowned slightly. No wonder they took the initiative to form a team and invite him. It turned out that they wanted him to be the vanguard and be the cannon fodder. If it was in the past, I might have foolishly gone to attract the spirit beast. But now, why would I do such a stupid thing? Dai Lu said, "You guys attract the spirit beast. I will go in and take the heaven and earth treasure." The middle-aged man said in a deep voice, "Didn't we agree before joining the team that you must listen to my orders?" "Yes, we agreed." Dai Lu said coldly, "But if you want to die, I have the right to refuse." Little guy. The surrounding martial artists immediately surrounded him and said coldly, "Boss told you to go, so you must go. Otherwise, don't even think about leaving this forest alive." A threat. A blatant threat. Dai Lu's eyes flashed with a hint of grassland green. Little guy. Soul said unhappily, "If it were me, I would have already absorbed all these evil martial artists. Why would I pretend to be polite with them?" Sigh. Dai Lu sighed and said to himself, "I just want to get the heaven and earth treasure. I don't want to absorb their energy." Soul said, "In this world of mutual deception, who would give you benefits for no reason? So just be straightforward and absorb all their energy." Okay, I will go," Dai Lu said. Soul, he had been teaching by example every day. Why was this guy still not enlightened? Hurry up. The martial artists urged in a low voice. Dai Lu did not say anything and walked toward the cave. Since he had come to the location of the heaven and earth treasure, he could just go in and absorb the spirit beast. Then, he could take the treasure away and be done with it. Third brother. The middle-aged man said in a low voice, "When that guy reaches the entrance of the cave, think of a way to alert the spirit beast inside." "Yes, boss." The martial artist next to him took out a longbow from behind, then took out a special arrow and knocked it on the string. Swish! When Dai Lu was about to reach the cave, the arrow suddenly broke through the wind and instantly hit the stone wall. There was a loud bang. Roar! The spirit beast that was resting heard the noise and then dragged its huge body out of the cave. Its huge eyes instantly locked on to the black-robed human. Damn it! Dai Lu cursed in his heart. The dozens of martial artists hiding in the dark saw the spirit beast appear and locked on to that guy. The corners of their mouths suddenly raised into a smile. Roar! The spirit beast that was infinitely close to the emperor level in strength pounced angrily. Dai Lu's eyes flashed coldly. He was about to use the energy in his body when he saw a huge fist coming from the sky and directly hitting the spirit beast's head. Boom! The powerful spirit energy spread, rolling up dust. The dozens of martial artists hiding in the dark were all stunned because a young man in white stood in the sky above the dust. He looked familiar. They seemed to have seen him somewhere before. Big brother. The martial artist with the longbow said in shock, It's the patriarch of the sect of all times." Swish! Jun Changshao floated down and picked up the crystal core that had rolled on the ground. He then looked at Dai Lv, who was in a daze, and said with a smile, "We are quite fated to meet here." Dai Lu's mouth twitched slightly. The explosive power of this fellow's sudden punch made him feel extremely insignificant. Jun Changshao walked into the cave and put the treasure into his interspatial ring. He then walked out and looked at the group of martial artists in the distance and reminded, "These people are not easy to deal with. Don't get too close to them in the future." Swish! After he finished speaking, he flew away. He left quietly, just as he came quietly. He waved his hand lightly and took away the treasure. Dai Lu stood in place for a long time before he came back to his senses. He then clenched his fist and cried in pain in his heart, "Why did this guy save me?" Chapter 923. Killing the spirit beast with one punch and then taking away the treasure, this was in line with Jun Changxiao's style of acting cool and running away. However, Dai Lu was deeply shocked. Especially when the fist came down, the terrifying aura that exploded out made him realize that the gap between him was too big. The matter of revenge. There was no hope at all. What made Dai Lu even more intolerable was that he was saved by him. One must know that after the destruction of the Spirit Spring sect, the only thing that kept Greenscarf Brother growing stronger was that unforgettable hatred. Now that he was saved by the person he hated, although this saving was obviously unnecessary, it was still hard for him to accept. In other words, after Jun Changshao appeared and beat Dai Lu up, it would make him feel good, but saving him was no different from fiercely whipping his soul. Save? Greenscarf Brother was thinking too much. Jun Changshao was just passing by to investigate the withered plants and coincidentally found the treasure. It was not about saving, it was more because it was convenient. Of course, knowing Dai Lu was also one of the reasons why Jun Changshao saved him. Although the two had conflicts, it was only a few years ago. Now that he had broken through to the sage-to-be level, he had a magnanimous heart and would not fuss over the past. Qin Haoran was a classic example. After Jun Changshao had absolute power, he only arranged for the 100 Sect alliance and did not deliberately make things difficult for him and the other sect elders. When you have no money, the people around you look down on you, but when you have money and wealth that can rival a country, you have already risen to another level and naturally would not lower yourself to the same level as ordinary people. Status determines one's attitude. Why did that guy save me? Why did that guy save me? Dai Lu was still roaring in his heart, unable to let go of the fact that he was saved by Jun Changshao. Soul said indifferently, "It's very simple, he thinks that you are trash and no threat to him, so he saved you with a kind of charity attitude, making you feel grateful towards him." These words were really bad. Making Jun Changshao save him in passing, it was raised to the level of humiliation. Damn it! Dai Lu clenched his fists and said, "Sooner or later, I will make you and your sect of all times pay the price." He had said such harsh words many times. Although he had been tortured thousands of times by Night Emperor, he still persisted and never wavered. Boss! A few martial artists walked out of the cave and broke down. The treasures are gone. They must have been taken away by the patriarch of the sect of all times. AI. The middle-aged man sighed, and then he glanced at the dazed Dai Lu and said, "We worked for nothing. Let's go. What should we do with this kid? Kill him. All right." Originally, he had hoped that the other party would lure the spirit beast out and provide him with an opportunity to enter the cave to steal the heavenly treasure. Now that the item had been taken away by Jun Changshao, it naturally lost its value. Swoosh! Whoosh! Dozens of cultivators surrounded Dai Lu, their eyes flashing with cold killing intent. Soul said, "Kid, do you see reality now? These people have been treating you like a fool." Dai Lu came back to his senses and muttered, "Aren't you the same?" Soul, since the entire world is bullying me, then it doesn't matter if I destroy the world, Dai Lu muttered to himself. His eyes gradually turned green, and he seemed to have entered a berserk state. Soul hurriedly dissuaded him. Jun Changshao just left. If you erupt so recklessly, you will definitely alarm him. Whoosh whoosh. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. As soon as he finished speaking, green attributes suddenly burst out and enveloped the dozens of martial artists around him. Dai Lu's killing intent surged. Die! Whoosh whoosh. The spirit energy of the spirit cores was drawn out uncontrollably. Everyone's skin quickly withered, and in the end, they turned into corpses and scattered on the ground before they could even scream. Jun Changshao, who was about to go to another withered area, suddenly stopped and frowned. This aura is a bit strange. The system said, "It's different from the martial arts system of the Falling Star continent." Whoosh! Jun Changshao quickly turned back. When he came to the cave where he took the treasure, he saw dozens of withered corpses scattered around. He said in a low voice, "Soul race?" The system said, "The kid you saved just now is not among them." Jun Changshao said, "He killed them." As he spoke, he had fully released his spiritual sense and instantly covered an area of 500 miles, but he did not find Dai Lu. Patriarch. At this moment, the spy's voice sounded in his ear. According to our investigation, the withered areas that have recently appeared in the southeast have one thing in common. What is it? There will always be one person who will appear at the scene of the crime in advance. Who? According to our investigation, this person was once a disciple of the Spirit Springs Sect, and later joined Dai Lu of the Sacred Springs Sect. Jun Changshao sat on a boulder next to him, lit up an electronic cigarette, took a deep breath, and said, "So, this guy is the target I'm looking for?" The system said, "I knew it. This kid's aptitude is mediocre. How could he become so strong in such a short time?" "When did you say that?" "I just said it." "Fuck you." Jun Changshao stood up, spat out a circle of smoke, and sneered. "Kid, you've been exposed. You can escape for a while, but how can you escape for a lifetime?" Whoosh! The mechanical armed wings spread out, turned into a stream of light, and flew quickly in the southeast province. His spiritual sense spread crazily in all directions, completely carpet-searching. The soul race in Dai Lu's body surprised Jun Changshao, but since he found out, he must find him as soon as possible and eliminate the potential threat that could threaten the continent in the cradle. Save the world. He was serious. Whoosh! Whoosh! In the sky, Dai Lu turned into a stream of green light, moving forward at an extremely fast speed that made others panic. After being tortured by the Night Emperor in the southern barren state, only a year had passed, and he had broken through to the Emperor stage. This speed of growth was indeed astonishing. "Hurry, hurry, hurry!" Soul roared in his heart, "That guy is about to catch up. Damn it!" Dai Lu broke down. "I just killed some people who wanted to kill me. Is there a need to chase me so desperately? Who told you to unleash the devouring power so recklessly?" Soul roared. Any expert with a bit of strength will feel that there's a problem. These two brothers obviously did not understand that Jun Changshao appeared in the southeast province to investigate the devouring power. Now that he was targeted, it was impossible to escape. No! Soul sensed the energy fluctuations coming at him at an extremely fast speed and said, "He'll catch up soon." Whoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, a stream of light flew over from behind the curve, and then directly hung on the path that he had to pass through. Screech! Dai Lu slammed on the brakes, and his face was extremely ugly. He was clearly running fast enough, but he was still easily caught up. Was this the huge gap in strength? I can't accept this. I really can't accept this. Kid. Jun Changshao said, "There should be something unclean in your body. I'm going to take it out today." Something unclean? Could it be soul? How did he know about this? Jun Changshao. Dai Lu said angrily, "I don't understand what you're talking about." Jun Changshao carried the magically modified vacuum cleaner on his back and said, "Although the soul race can help you quickly improve your strength, they're just treating you like a puppet. Today, I'll help you escape from the sea of bitterness." "Help me escape from the sea of bitterness?" Dai Lu laughed. Then, his eyes flashed with grief and indignation as he shouted, "Isn't it because of you that I'm in this state today?" Smack! Jun Changshao appeared in front of him and slapped him hard. He said, "What does it have to do with me that the soul race is residing in your body?" Chapter 924. Brother Green Scarf's fate had nothing to do with Jun Changshao. After all, he had nothing to do with the soul race entering his body. However, for Dai Lv to bear such a grudge and not hesitate to become stronger, it was definitely related to him. To be exact, Dai Lu had worked hard to cultivate after awakening his devouring power. His current strength was partly due to Jun Changshao and partly due to Yixingchen. But this was a good ending. Dai Lu lay in the deep pit on the ground. His bones were about to fall apart. This man was too strong. He was not even an ant in front of him. I can't accept this. Dai Lu clenched his fists. Kid. Soul said, "This person is a half-step saint. You have no chance of winning against him. If you want to live, give me your body." Can you defeat him if I give it to you? Dai Lu asked in his mind. Yes. Soul's tone was firm. Dai Lu forced a bitter smile and said, I know you've always wanted to take over my body. I also know that I have some value and can be used by you. Although he had been deceived by the old man, Brother Green Scarf was not stupid. He knew some things even if he did not say them out loud. If giving you my body can help me take revenge for the destruction of my sect, then, take it. After saying this, Dai Lu completely relaxed. He allowed the devouring power to take control of his body and devour his thoughts. There was no hope of escape. There was no hope of revenge. He was willing to give his life to the Abyss Devil to fulfill his long-cherished wish. Whoosh whoosh. The powerful grassland green attribute turned into rays of light and enveloped Dai Lu like silk. Is this the power of the soul race? Jun Changshao, who was standing in the air, did not activate the vacuum because he was very curious. What was so special about this race that had caused a war between emperors in ancient times? Bang! After a while, the green energy that enveloped him suddenly exploded. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Streams of light flew and waves of air spread. Ta! At the center of the whistling energy, the green-haired Dai Lu stood up. His originally weak face became cold, and his body was surrounded by green energy currents. Crack! Dai Lu clenched his fists and said coldly, although this body is still very weak, it can still allow me to exert some of my power. Killing a half-step Wusheng is no problem at all. Hey! Jun Changshao, who was suspended in the air, asked, what's your super number? Brat! Dai Lu raised his head and said with a sinister smile, if it weren't for your sudden appearance, that brat might not have been willing to offer up his body. So, in return. He raised his hand and green energy quickly gathered in his palm. It's better for him to die. Boom! The gathered energy turned into a beam of light and blasted down from above. Because the power was extremely terrifying, space was instantly torn apart. Boom! The green beam of light exploded in midair. Whoosh! Jun Changshao walked out from the rolling clouds. The True Yang's sword in his hand shone brightly. He smiled and said, your strength is not bad. You deserve this seat to fight seriously. Dai Lu frowned slightly. His attack was extremely powerful, but it couldn't do anything to him. This patriarch of the sect of all times who rose in such a short time was still quite strong. This was also good. Today, he would sacrifice him to the heavens and announce to the falling star continent that the soul race was back. Whoosh! While he was thinking, Jun Changshao had already rushed down. The True Yang's sword cut through the void and immediately spread out a dense sword energy. Ling Jian's one-word sword formula had been comprehended to the extreme. The sword energy that he released was completely invisible to the naked eye. Bang! 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 Dai Lu, who was controlled by the soul race, gathered green spiritual energy in his palms and shattered all the sword energy with a domineering force. However, he was shocked in his heart. From the strength contained in the sword energy, he instantly judged that this kid's strength was definitely not an ordinary half-step Wusheng. It was even possible that he had reached a level infinitely close to Wusheng's level. Shwa! Shwa! Jun Changshao attacked again. The sword energy that he released was even more powerful than before. Dai Lu's expression changed slightly. He hurriedly dodged to the side and then took the opportunity to wave his palm. Green glow formula. Whoosh whoosh. Green energy suddenly gathered in front of him. At the same time, the vitality of the plants in the area was immediately drawn and quickly withered as they lost their energy. Kid! After accumulating energy, Dai Lu pushed his palms forward and shouted coldly, go to hell. Whoosh whoosh, the energy that absorbed the vitality of the surroundings and was greatly strengthened immediately rushed over like a cannonball. This force was so strong that even the space in the distance was distorted by the shock. A battle of this level was definitely rare in the Starfall continent. Unfortunately, there was no audience to be surprised. Facing the incoming green energy, Jun Changxiao's right hand, which was holding the true Yang sword, quickly turned into steel and slashed at the opponent. Whoosh! The incomparably cold sword energy, supported by the combat form of the mechanical armed wings, ruthlessly tore the green energy apart. Then, there were two boom-boom sounds, shaking the space and causing a large area to collapse. Dai Lu, whose move was broken, was dumbfounded. This green glow formula of his could kill half-step saints in the Starfall continent like cutting grass. Why was it so weak in front of this kid? Because he was a cheater. Jun Changxiao stood proudly with his sword and said, "If that's all you can do, I don't mind letting you get a boxed meal now." Dai Lv's eyes were filled with anger as he said, "Kid, your strength has surprised me. But don't be arrogant. Wait until I cultivate for a while more, then I'll definitely trample you beneath my feet." From his tone, it seemed like he was going to escape. He had already analyzed that the strength of the patriarch of the sect of all times was not below him. If they really fought, he might not be at an advantage. Therefore, he might as well leave and absorb energy without restraint. When he was stronger, he would destroy this sect and then plunder the entire continent. Whoosh! He retreated as soon as he said so. However, just as he ran a few dozen meters, he heard a cold shout from behind, "Dragon Elephant Prajnapam." Whoosh whoosh. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In an instant, a desolate and heavy aura suddenly erupted in the sky. Dai Lu hurriedly looked up and saw dozens of huge dragon elephant phantoms appear and then ruthlessly suppress him. No, boom. 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 The ground in this area suddenly trembled violently, and the rising dust could be said to cover the sky and the sun. What's going on? The martial artists thousands of miles away felt the movement and all looked up. They saw a gurgling spiritual energy ripple over, causing the space to almost distort. There are top experts fighting. Heavens, this seems to be just the momentum of the aftershocks, but it can actually distort space. Could it be whooshing? In the center of the tremor, the dust gradually dispersed. A huge pit appeared in his field of vision, and Dai Lu was in the deepest part of it, dripping with blood. Swoosh! Jun Changxiao landed, raised the vacuum cleaner, and said, "It wasn't easy for me to find you. How can I let you slip away under my nose?" Dai Lu's injuries were too serious and he could no longer speak. Paw! The flat vacuum mouth was pressed against his forehead. Jun Changxiao imitated the tone of a man who swore to become the pirate king and said, "Third gear." Whoosh whoosh. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. A strong suction force suddenly erupted, and the devouring power in his body and Dai Lu's head of green hair were all sucked in. Paw! He turned off the vacuum cleaner. Jun Changxiao's consciousness merged into the vacuum cleaner and saw the green energy crazily crashing against the barrier. He smiled and said, "This thing is indeed effective against the soul race." Wah! At this moment, the seriously injured and bald Dai Lu spat out a mouthful of blood, and his turbid eyes gradually became clear. Kid! Jun Changxiao squatted down and smiled innocently. "Your bones are exquisite and you are a one-in-a-million martial arts genius, so I've decided to give you another chance. Are you willing to join the sect of all times and become a disciple?" "No," Dai Lu said. "I know you want to say that you are very grateful." Jun Changxiao carried him and said, "Then follow me back to the sect." "What's there to be grateful for?" "I want to say that I'm not willing." Chapter 925. My name is Dai Lu. I'm currently in a sect that bears a grudge against me from the moment I appeared. I'm even being watched by a group of disciples like a monkey. I'm panicking right now. What should I do? Waiting online. Urgent. Li Fei stepped on a happy football and smiled. Patriarch, is this the new junior brother? To be personally brought back by the patriarch, he definitely had real skills and could definitely take a beating. He looks a little familiar. I think I've seen him somewhere before. I think so too. Long Xiang, Yang Yuhua, and the others were discussing. Although Dai Lu's injuries were quite serious, he could still think. He could still hear everyone's discussion and almost spat out blood. In the past, he was a disciple of the Holy Springs Sect and had once fought with Yixingchen. Did he not have any sense of presence? Patriarch, is he a Buddhist cultivator? Lu Wancher asked. The little girl had this judgment because Dai Lu's green hair had been sucked away by the vacuum cleaner. If a worker wants to do a good job, he must first benefit from it. The current Brother Green Scarf had become Brother Bald. If he joined the Sect of all times and became a disciple, he would benefit from various martial arts facilities. Even if he became bald, he would also become stronger. Li Qingyang said, Patriarch, his injuries are very serious. Do you want to treat him first? No need. Jun Changshao thought for a moment and said, lock him in the prison first. Although he forcefully brought Dai Lu back, if he was not willing to join the Sect of all times, he definitely would not force him. Go Sheng was very principled and particular about certain things. Mad wolf is a kind of attitude. Mad wolf is not restrained. Mad wolf, mad wolf. In the prison, Zhao Daoda leisurely hummed a song. As the #1 prisoner of the Sect of all times, although he rarely went out, he could hear the dynamic music from the training ground every day. Over time, he learned it. After being locked up for so long, the only thing he could use to relieve his boredom was singing. Creak. Suddenly, the prison door opened. Zhao Daodu hurriedly shut his mouth and subconsciously shrank into a corner. It was not meal time yet. Since the door had been opened, there was only one possibility: a new cellmate was coming. As expected, Xiao Ziji grabbed Dai Lu and walked over. Then, he placed him on the wooden bed and turned around to leave. Zhao Daodu didn't go over immediately. Instead, he stayed in the corner vigilantly and thought to himself, someone who can be locked up in the Sect of all times must be a big shot. Although this brother's cultivation was ordinary, his cellmates were either demon kings or half-saints. The worst was the Nine Venoms Palace Master, who was as beautiful as a flower. After he was released from prison, he would definitely be able to brag in front of others for the rest of his life. A few minutes passed. Zhao Daoda found that the guy was still lying down. Judging from the frequency of his breathing, it seemed that he was seriously injured. So he went over and confirmed that he was really injured. He then sat on the bed and said, "Friend, how did you get in?" Dai Lu remained silent. His injuries were very serious. All his meridians were damaged. This wasn't important. What was important was that no matter how he tried to activate it, he couldn't activate the devouring power. That guy who called himself Soul had also disappeared. Gone. Everything was gone. Dai Lu, who was lying flat on the bed, couldn't stop his tears from flowing down. All these years, hatred had been his motivation. The devouring power was the foundation that made him infinitely stronger. Now that he had lost it, he was back to square one. God! Dai Lu screamed in his heart, "Why did you do this to me? Why are you still crying?" Zhao Daodu shook his head and comforted him, "Friend, it's normal for people to have ups and downs in life. Since you've become a prisoner, the only thing you can do is to treat it normally. Look at me. I've been locked up for a few years, but I'm still not happy. Come. Sing loudly with me. The mad wolf is an attitude. The mad wolf is rising and falling." Dai Lu thought to himself, is this guy crazy? After the #1 prisoner Zhao Daodu became the palace master of Nine Poisons Temple, he finally welcomed a new prisoner. However, it could be seen that the other party was a little pessimistic. So in order to not make him sad and give up on himself, he sat beside him and fed him chicken soup when he had time. When I was first locked up, I had the thought of dying. But later on, I figured it out. If I die, won't I have nothing left? So I have to live, even if I have to live without dignity. There's no smooth sailing in a person's life. If you don't experience great storms, how can you become a real man? A withered flower can't make a whole spring. A setback can't make a whole life desolate. When you fall to the bottom, don't despair. Raise your head and you'll see a brilliant starry sky. Under the comforting words of chicken soup for the soul, Dai Lu's injuries were getting better every day. If there was a brick next to him, he would definitely pick it up and let him shut his noisy mouth. In the study, Jun Changshao merged into the heaven origin soul-suppressing pagoda. Master Arya, who was holding a small leather whip and whipping the power of the thunder calamity, stopped and smiled. Why are you here? To send you a prisoner. As Jun Changshao spoke, he took out the vacuum cleaner. Prisoner? Arya's eyes lit up. Whoosh! The vacuum cleaner was opened. A ball of green attributes was like a devil that had been sealed for a long time, frantically fleeing outside. In the end, it slammed into the space barrier and bounced back. Ah! Arya was quite surprised. What a violent attribute. Can it be purified? Jun Changshao asked. Paw! Arya whipped the green attribute, causing it to instantly turn into a human form. She smiled sinisterly. As long as it's taken into the heaven origin soul-suppressing pagoda, there's nothing I can't purify, Master. She stared with her eyes wide open. This guy isn't an energy attribute. It's a creature with a thinking system. That's right. Jun Changshao said. Wow! Arya was surprised. This is the first time I've seen a creature with such an attribute. Damn it. The soul turned into a human form, holding the arm that was whipped. He said angrily, Jun Changshao, you'd better let me go quickly or else, whoosh. Whoosh! Before he could finish, red ropes suddenly darted over, binding him from his ankles to his legs, until his whole body was tied up. He was hung in the air in a U shape. Arya walked over and said, This is my territory. Don't be arrogant. As she spoke, she raised the sexy leather whip and was about to whip him wildly. However, Jun Changshao stopped her and said, If you cooperate and answer some questions, I can consider letting you go. Humph. The soul sneered. I don't know anything. Trying to get information? No way. You're a man. Jun Changshao gave Arya a look and said, Treat him well. Yes, Master. Arya couldn't wait any longer. Her small face suddenly turned demonic, and then she raised the leather whip and began to whip him wildly. Are you going to talk or not? Smack, smack, smack. Are you going to talk or not? Smack, smack, smack. Under the whipping, the soul let out a heart-wrenching roar. The humanoid thunder punishment force hiding in the corner trembled in fear. They had a deep understanding of the feeling of being whipped. The soul-subduing whip had the effect of whipping the depths of the soul, so no matter if it was a creature or an attribute, it couldn't withstand it at all. Still not talking. Arya took out a lit candle and directly attacked. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Are you going to talk or not? Say no. The soul finally couldn't take the torture and roared with a ferocious expression. He didn't ask, what should I say? Yeah. Arya took back the candle and said, Master, you haven't asked yet. Chapter 926. Jun Changshao had a lot of questions to ask this soul race. For example, after the Battle of the Gods, why was he still alive, and why was he residing in Dai Lu's body? Although I was severely injured by the Great Desolation Martial Emperor, my soul was not destroyed. I have always been lurking in the falling star continent, looking for a suitable body to occupy. By chance, I met Dai Lu, who was on the verge of death, and sensed his powerful resentment, so I successfully sneaked into his body. Soul explained in a trembling voice. So obedient? That's right. Arya next to him held the soul-subduing whip in her left hand and the soul-subduing candle in her right. It could be seen that after a short period of training, this guy who claimed to be the owner of this body was completely obedient. Jun Changshao said, Are the soul race shapeless? We soul race have an innate ability called soul transformation. We can release the soul form and then reside in the body of other living beings, Soul said. Seeing that this guy was so cooperative, Arya put away the tools, and a harmless smile appeared on her face. Soul heaved a sigh of relief, but there was more sadness in his heart. After all, he was a third soul overlord, and he actually ended up in such a miserable state. If the power of thunder punishment knew what he was thinking, they would definitely look at him with disdain. Was a living being from a mortal plane very powerful? We came from the upper realm, but we were still whipped and tortured. Did we ever show off? Were we ever proud? In other words, you have a physical body, and you only transformed your soul into a void to invade the falling star continent? Jun Changshao said. That's right. His soul trembled as he spoke. Jun Changshao said, do you have any martial arts resources or martial arts manuals in your soul race plane? Or ores, crystal cores, medicinal herbs, and so on? This was a very important question. No. Soul said, the plane we live in is on the verge of being abandoned, so we keep devouring other planes to strengthen ourselves. Fuck. Jun Changshao thought, Array Emperor, you lied to me. He insisted that he saved the world because he could enter the soul race continent to rob and then strengthen his sect. But there was nothing, so what was the point of entering? Forget it. It was fine not to save the falling star continent. Of course. Hun said proudly, although the spirit continent is poor, we, the Hun race, are good at plundering. We have countless martial arts resources. In a barren plane, relying on one's innate ability to frantically plunder so that one could survive and grow stronger was definitely something to be proud of. Really? Jun Changxiao's eyes blazed. As a member of the falling star continent, how could they stay out of trouble? They had to fight for their home. They had to go to the plane called the Soul Continent and cause trouble. Seeing the flickering light in that fellow's eyes, Soul shuddered and thought to himself, I have a bad feeling. The living beings of the spirit continent, motherfucker, we've been tricked by you. Area. Now that he knew everything he wanted to know, Jun Changxiao instructed, I'll leave this guy to you. Purify all the unclean things on him as soon as possible. No problem. Arya summoned the soul-subduing whip again and laughed sinisterly, little cutie, I will train you well. Hun was so shocked that his mind trembled. He hurriedly roared, Jun Changxiao. You said you'd let me go. You can't keep your word. I said so. Jun Changxiao said, but not now. You, smack. 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 Jun Changxiao left, leaving behind a lowly holding a whip and frantically whipping a tied-up figure. The camera switched back and forth. It was very picturesque. In the cell, Dai Lu sat on the plank bed expressionlessly. Even if a beam of sunlight shone on his face through the iron window, he was still unmoved. Soul was crazily trained by Arya in the Tianyuan soul-suppressing pagoda, and now he seemed to have lost his soul. Relying on the devouring power, Dai Lu broke through to the level of Wu Huang. But now that he had lost the former support, the future was simply dark for him. What's the value of me living in this world? He murmured, and his mood was extremely low. Zhao Daodu sat next to him and comforted him, if you're sad, try to look up at the sky. You'll forget it when you look at it. It's so big, it will definitely tolerate all your grievances. Dai Lu had no strength at all now. Otherwise, he would have knocked this guy's head against the wall so that he would not feed him any nutritious chicken soup. Creak. Suddenly, the cell door opened. 1 and 2 walked in from the outside, and then placed all the delicious dishes on the table. The aroma of the dishes immediately filled the entire cell. Zhao Daodu sniffed gently, and his saliva immediately flowed out. Dai Lu, who was depressed, was unmoved. His life was already gloomy, and he was not interested in anything. Jun Changxiao walked in, sat in front of the table, and said, have you thought it through? Dai Lu lowered his head and said, I won't join the sect of all times, and I won't become your disciple. He clenched his fists and added another time limit, forever. What a backbone. At this moment, Brother Green Scarf was a real man. The sect of all times has always been virtuous, and we will never force people to do things against their will. After eating this meal, you can leave at any time, Jun Changshao said. Jun Patriarch. Zhao Daodu raised his hand and said, I'm willing to join the sect of all times, and I'm willing to be at your beck and call. As he spoke, he had already sat down at the table. Scram! Xiao! Zhao Daodu instantly retreated, and then curled up in a corner, feeling wronged. Why are all the new prisoners treated better than me? After eating this meal, I can leave. That's right. Jun Changshao said seriously, I'll also give you a pill to help you recover from your injuries. From now on, you can jump as high as the sea, and fly as high as the sky. Dai Lu's eyes were filled with astonishment. He looked at the steaming hot food on the table, and tried to move his body over. Swoosh! He sat down. Lu Wancher made a lot of dishes, and many of them were made in the cooking competition and the God of Cookery competition, so someone who could eat them was really lucky. Dai Lu hesitated for a long time, but still picked up his chopsticks. But just as he was about to eat, he raised his head with difficulty and said seriously, garlic. Zhao Daodu, give it to him. Yes. Erhe handed over a few cloves of garlic. Only then did Dai Lu start to eat, and the more he ate, the more tears flowed down. It was not because the food was too delicious, but because in order to survive, he had to compromise in front of his enemy. How painful was that? Gulp. Looking at that guy wolfing down the food, Zhao Daodu, who was squatting behind, drooled and said secretly, Brother, leave a bite for me, don't eat it all. Paw! After a while, the food on the table was all eaten by Dai Lu. He put down his chopsticks and said, Can I leave now? Jun Changshao's eyes were filled with surprise. Lu Wancher's dishes were all her specialties. Was this guy not shocked? Could it be that this guy couldn't be tempted by delicious food? Looking at it now, Dai Lu was indeed not shocked by the food. He was just thinking about whether he could leave now that he was full. People with integrity would always be firm in their thoughts. People like the Purple King, Zhen Dijuan, and the others could only swallow their pride for a bowl of fried rice. Kid. Jun Changshao said, when we went to Qingyang City, if you had agreed to be recruited, you would have been the second disciple. Now that you have rejected it again, don't regret it in the future. I, Dai Lu, have never regretted anything in my life, Dai Lu said seriously. All right. Jun Changshao threw over a healing pill, then pointed at the prison door and said, Eat it, and you can leave now. Looking at the pitch-black pill, Dai Lv wondered if there was poison in it. However, if he wanted to kill him, there was no need to go through so much trouble. Swish! Dai Lu picked up the pill and swallowed it without hesitation. After the pill took effect, the damaged meridians were instantly repaired, and he became energetic. He was stunned. Ever since he obtained the devouring power, he had been injured while cultivating, and he had also recovered quickly. However, he had never seen such a situation where he recovered so quickly from a serious injury. Did he eat a divine medicine? Jun Changshao said, You can leave now. Swish! Dai Lu, who had recovered from his injuries, got up and walked to the prison cell. When he saw the light again after he went out, he took a deep breath. Jun Changshao. He said with his back to the prison cell, Our enmity will not be eliminated because of this. Sooner or later, Dai Lu, will seek justice for the destroyed Spirit Spring sect. You have no chance. Jun Changshao paused and added a time limit, forever. The green mountains do not change, and the clear water flows forever. Dai Lu said, Goodbye. Swish! On this day, Dai Lu, who was caught in the sect of all times, flew out, setting a precedent for escaping unscathed. In his words, he had never regretted anything in his life. Patriarch. Jiangya was puzzled, Are you letting him go just like that? Everyone has their own aspirations. You can't force them. Jun Changshao's face was sanctimonious, but he was roaring in his heart, Delicacies can't tempt him, healing pills can't either. Is this guy a devil? At first, this guy wanted to use delicacies to tempt Dai Lu to stay willingly. In the end, it was obvious that it had no effect, so he took out healing pills to show him how magical they were and decided to stay. However, he did not follow the script. The system complained, "Finally, someone has broken the Sect of all times' law of fragrance." Dai Lu really left. He was not subdued by delicacies, nor was he subdued by healing pills. He was a real man. Although he did not follow the script, Jun Changshao did not particularly care. After all, the kid's soul had been absorbed, so the potential risk was eliminated. However, he was still a young Wu Huang. It was a pity to let him go just like that. Why don't I send Yi Xingqian over and catch that guy again? He had clearly said that he would let him go. If he went back on his word and caught him, it would be the same as confirming his shamelessness. Conflicted. The system said, "Does the host need to confirm his shamelessness? Isn't this obvious?" Jun Changshao rubbed his chin and said, "That makes sense." Xing Chen. Pei Aniu, go catch that guy who just flew away. If he resists, then, cripple him first. Whoosh! Yi Xingqian turned into a streak of light and headed west at an extremely fast speed. The system, "Sorry, it's my fault." Back to Dai Lu. This man who broke the Sect of all times' law, after confirming that he really came out, his eyes were filled with disbelief. Jun Changshao. Dai Lu clenched his fists and shouted angrily, "Don't think that I will be grateful to you just because you let me go. I will take revenge for the destruction of the Spirit Spring Sect sooner or later." His voice rippled through the sky. How heart-wrenching. Whoosh! At this moment, Yi Xingqian caught up and stopped not far away from him. He said indifferently, "Trash." Yi Xingqian. Seeing this man who made him lose his appetite for food and drink, Dai Lu's eyes suddenly erupted with intense anger. The humiliation that Jun Changshao brought to him was nothing more than being trampled in the beginning of the game. The damage to his dignity that Pei Aniu brought to him was unforgettable. Whoosh whoosh. In an instant, Dai Lu's first stage Wu Huang cultivation fully erupted. Although he did not have the support of the devouring power, he still seemed very imposing. Yi Xingqian said in surprise, "He actually broke through Wu Huang." Die! Dai Lu angrily rushed over. Monstrous anger spread all over his body, making him seem like an enraged lion. Then, Yi Xingqian dodged and directly hit him with a swipe. Bang! The ground cracked and dust flew. Yi Xingqian slowly landed and hung 6 feet away from Dai Lu, who was trapped in the pit. He said coldly, "Even if you have broken through Wu Huang, you will always be trash in front of me." You, pft. Dai Lu spat out a mouthful of blood and clenched the soil tightly with both hands. During this period, he had been absorbing flowers and trees in the southeast province to cultivate. He thought that after breaking through Wu Huang, he would be able to trample this guy under his feet. In the end, he was completely defeated, even more so than in the southern barren province. I've been working very hard. Why can't I beat him? Why am I always being abused? Could it be that this was his fate? Recalling the past and the scenes of being humiliated by Yi Xingqian on various occasions, Dai Lu suddenly burst into tears. He cried like a child. He also had the life of a protagonist. In the novel, he worked the hardest to cultivate and was the best at explaining the spirit of martial arts. However, he was always defeated by the reincarnated Great Emperor style. It was really sad and wronged. Plop. On the martial arts field, Dai Lu was thrown down. Jun Changshao walked over and said with a smile, "We meet again." Dai Lu roared angrily, "You said you would let me go. Why did you send him to catch me?" Jun Changshao said, "I did let you go, but you didn't take care of yourself and were caught by my sect's disciples. Who can you blame for this?" Dai Lv lay paralyzed on the ground, his body spread out, and he said resolutely, "If you want to kill or torture me, do as you please." He could see that this guy had no intention of preventing him from leaving, so he could only give up. At most, he would be a good man again after 18 years. Kid, I'll give you two choices. Either you join the Sect of All Times and become a disciple, or you stay in the dungeon with Daodu as your companion, Jun Changshao said. Dai Lu said firmly, I won't join my enemy's sect. Never. Creak. Plop. Creak. Zhao Daodu, who was licking the empty plate, saw Dai Lu being thrown in again. He broke down and said, Brother, you ate too cleanly. You didn't even leave any oil for me. Whenever you think it through, the Sect of All Times will welcome you at any time. Jun Changshao's voice came from outside. Zhao Daodu shouted, Jun Patriarch, I've thought it through. I'm willing to join the Sect of All Times and work for you. Jun Changshao ignored him and returned to Dragon Head Peak. On the way, the system said, this Dai Lu is very unyielding. It will probably be difficult to make him submit. Host, you can either kill him or release him. Why keep him locked up? There must be something different about the soul race residing in this child. I can't kill him. I can only lock him up and find a chance to tame him, Jun Changshao said. Phew. Returning to the study, he glanced at the egg that had been incubated for 5 days and muttered to himself, I'm a bit worried right now. Is there still a soul race residing in a martial artist's body on the falling star continent? Patriarch. Li Luoqiu walked over and said, I just received news that 4 sixth-rate sects and 1 fifth-rate sect in the eastern boundless state were all wiped out overnight. Who did it? Jun Changshao said. It was very rare for several sects or even sects to be wiped out at the same time. Naturally, it would attract his attention. Li Luoqiu said, there were scouts from the sect near the location of the incident. They discovered a group of masked men in black robes in the forest. Masked men in black robes? Jun Changshao immediately thought of the mysterious organization that had repeatedly caused trouble for the sect. It might be the Darkness Sect. Ever since I went to Maple Valley, this mysterious organization hasn't appeared again. Could it be that they've thought it through and don't want to be enemies with me anymore? Xiaomu also sent news that the Taishan Shengzong has already started fighting with the Demon Gate's remnants at Raging Waves Lake, Li Luoqiu said. Jun Changshao didn't care about this. Instead, he asked, can we use all of our intelligence network to find the mysterious organization hiding in the dark? This, Li Luoqiu said, it's a bit difficult. Those masked men in black robes were too hidden. Even with their current intelligence network, they had only encountered them once by accident. Patriarch. At this time, Jiangya walked into the study and said, I want to take a few days off to go out. Jun Changshao's eyes lit up. This elder had inherited the Yuan spirit body and could easily spy on the high-level formations in the planar battlefield. It shouldn't be a problem for him to investigate the masked men in black robes. Moreover, he was quite strong. It was much safer and more professional than the scouts. Elder Jiang wants to go out to look for your family? Yes. Approved. Jun Changshao said, however, while you're looking for your family, pay attention to the masked men in black robes. It would be best if you can find their base. Yes. Jiangya accepted the patriarch's arrangement. Now, he had enough understanding of the Yuan spirit body and had long planned to go out to look for his sister. The Starfall continent was so big and had 9 provinces, so it was destined to take some time. It wasn't a bad idea to investigate the Darkness Sect. The next day, Jiangya was ready. Just as he was about to leave, Li Qingyang came to his residence and said, Elder Jiang, can you help me find someone while you're at it? Who? Li Qingyang handed over a piece of paper and said, her name and the place where she used to live are written on it. So thorough. Jiangya glanced at the name written on the paper and said, you're looking for a woman. Yes. Leave it to me. That. Li Qingyang said, you just need to find where she lives now. Jiangya nodded and then flew out of the Sect of All Times. Only when the other party disappeared did Li Qingyang retract his gaze. Then, he turned and saw a large face appear in his field of vision. He hurriedly took a few steps back and said, Patriarch, why are you here? Jun Changshao put his hands in his sleeves and said, "If you miss her, go find her. It's boring to dilly-dally." Li Qingyang said bitterly, "She's deliberately avoiding me. If I go find her, she'll only go further away." Sigh. Jun Changshao said, "I really don't understand the love of you young people." Chapter 927. Li Qingyang had a lover. This was mentioned when he became a disciple of the Iron Bone sect. A few years had passed, but he did not look for her because she thought that her status was not worthy of the #1 genius of Qingyang City, so she deliberately avoided him. This was probably the furthest distance in the world. Not looking for her did not mean that he had forgotten her. Li Qingyang only hoped to appear in front of her after he had absolute strength, to tell this world that only he was worthy of her, and not her. Although after becoming a disciple of the sect of all times, he gradually became the head chief, and even became passionate about civil engineering, his heart to become a powerhouse had never wavered. Work hard. Jun Changshao patted his disciple's shoulder and said, "Until one day, you step on 7 colored clouds and marry her in front of everyone." 7 colored clouds? Li Qingyang was confused. Jun Changshao did not explain. He returned to Dragon Head Peak and entered the Tianyuan soul-suppressing pagoda again. Smack smack smack. The sound of a leather whip was heard rhythmically. Ah ah ah, the soul that was bound by the rope let out a heart-wrenching scream. This kind of whipping that came from the soul was simply too painful, and the unclean things in its body were also purified bit by bit. It was hard to imagine that one of the 9 soul clans that caused chaos in the ancient times 10,000 years ago would be treated so inhumanely. "Master," Arya said as she whipped it, "there are a lot of unclean things in this fellow's body. I'm afraid I'll have to purify it for a few months." "Take your time, there's no rush." Since the target had been caught, Jun Changshao did not care about the purification time. The soul had completely collapsed. If this kind of torture from the soul continued for a few months, it would definitely be worse than death. "Don't forget to train those with thunder attributes," Jun Changshao said. Li Qingyang had the body of thunder punishment. Since the thunder energy came from the upper realm, it must be powerful. If he absorbed it, there would definitely be a qualitative improvement. "Okay." Arya looked over and hooked her finger like a queen. "Get over here." The humanoid thunder punishment elemental monsters trembled as they walked over. Then, they stood in a row and miserably allowed the soul-suppressing whip to whip them. Although it was painful, after a long time, they actually felt a bit happy. After observing the soul being trained, Jun Changshao returned to the outside world and continued to cultivate in the spirit-gathering formation as usual. Then, he quietly waited for the incubation date to arrive. After Li Qingyang adjusted his mentality, he led Xiao Ziji, Long Xiang, and the others into the stronghold for construction. Without Page to act as the excavator, the efficiency was not particularly high. Jun Changshao didn't personally supervise the construction, so he started his daily life of eating, sleeping, and cultivating. Time passed. When he walked out of the spirit-gathering formation and confirmed that his understanding of the 5 elements had improved again, he went to the study. The incubator had entered the last 10 minutes of its successful incubation. With so many crystallic nuclei, there must be an awesome contract beast. Jun Changshao prayed. Ding! 10 minutes later, the incubation time ended. Huff huff, the cloud-like attributes that existed inside the incubator gradually converged. Suddenly, a water blue pattern appeared on the white egg, as if it was some kind of ancient restriction. Jun Changshao said, "It's the same structure as the Mystic 32 formations." Previously, on the round stone platform in the dimensional battlefield, a similar restriction appeared. Was there a certain connection between the two? Crack! Suddenly, there was the sound of the egg cracking. The egg in the incubator began to crack according to the water blue pattern. As more and more cracks appeared, beams of blue light spurted out. "It's coming out." Jun Changshao's eyes widened. Bang! Suddenly, the steamed egg exploded. The blue light was as dazzling as the sun. He hurriedly blocked his vision with his wrist and said in shock, "This formation must be awesome." After flickering for a while, the light began to weaken. Gosheng pressed his arm down and looked at the incubator. His expression instantly stiffened. A little fellow the size of an adult's fist appeared in his field of vision. It had 2 chicken-like claws, a pair of chicken-like wings, and a chicken-like tail feathers. It had a pointy mouth and a big red crown on its head. That's right. It didn't look like a chicken, it was a chicken, and it was a rooster. If there was a difference, it would be that other than the red crown, its feathers were water blue. It looked like a ghost in the shape of a chicken. This is the opportunity left behind by Venerable Guanhai. This is a beast from the upper realm. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched violently. The system said, "The color is very strange. It might be related to the mutation." Big brother. Jun Changxiao's expression collapsed as he roared, "Is this a problem with the color? This is a problem with the breed. I spent so many resources and 30 days, and I hatched a chicken. Don't panic." The system said, "Maybe it's just the appearance, but in fact, oh," at this moment, the pocket-sized little fellow raised its head and cried out. Its tone and voice were clearly that of a rooster. System, ah ah ah. Jun Changxiao hugged his head and said, "It's really a rooster." At this moment, the water-blue rooster stood in a posture that didn't recognize anyone. It spread its wings and hugged them together. It said proudly, "Do you dislike this young master?" Fuck. Jun Changxiao's eyes widened. He was already used to seeing beasts speak human language. But a rooster actually hugged its hands with its wings. This was too cartoonish. Also, this young master called himself. This fellow was a little arrogant. Jun Changxiao opened the incubator and directly grabbed it in his hand. He said coldly, "Remember, call me master." Humph. The little rooster said coldly, "To be able to become my master, you can be considered lucky." Damn. This little fellow was not just a little arrogant, it was super arrogant. A rooster actually dares to be so arrogant. "Do you believe that I won't fry you right now?" Jun Changxiao said fiercely. "Impudent." The rooster said angrily, "This young master is a descendant of the vermilion bird. You call me a rooster? You are insulting my bloodline and trampling on my dignity. Jun Changxiao, you look like this, you are insulting yourself." Wait a minute. Descendant of the vermilion bird? In Jun Changxiao's understanding, the vermilion bird of the 4 spirits was called the vermilion bird. Could it be that this little fellow was a descendant of a divine beast? That couldn't be right. Even if it was a descendant, it couldn't have genetically mutated to look like a chicken. Jun Changxiao said, "Little fellow, you really know how to gild yourself. Why don't you say that Azure Dragon, White Tiger, and Black Tortoise are your uncles?" The little rooster said with a surprised look, "How did you know?" Damn. Not only was this fellow a little arrogant, he also knew how to brag. The 4 spirit beasts were all his relatives. Shwa. Jun Changxiao grabbed it and brought it to the cafeteria. He placed it on the chopping board and shouted, "Do, hurry up and see if there is a way to stir-fry a rooster in the Chinese cookbook." Chapter 928. Gosheng couldn't stand the fact that a rooster hatched from an egg from the upper realm was so cocky and boastful. As the saying goes, a mountain can't accommodate 2 tigers. If a contract beast is so cocky, how am I, the main character and master, going to survive? Wow! So cute! Lu Wancher, who was busy, walked out and saw the little guy with blue feathers. She happily walked up and was about to lift it up. "Woman!" The little rooster said, "Don't touch me." Lu Wancher stopped and said, "Patriarch, such a cute little rooster, are you really going to stir-fry it?" "Look, it's so cocky, it has to be stir-fried." "But, it's too small, it won't be enough for Patriarch alone." What she meant was that stir-frying it wasn't impossible, but there had to be enough for the disciples to taste it. Jun Changshao rubbed his chin and said, let's keep it for a while, then stir-fry it after it's fattened up. Humph, the little rooster said proudly, I'm the descendant of a divine beast that's immune to fire and water. Jun Changshao, who had just retracted his thoughts, saw its arrogant and annoying eyes, and his temper rose again. Beep beep. Bring the pot of oil over, I want to see how it's immune to fire and water. That's not good, right? Although Lu Wancher said that, her body was very honest. She placed the big pot on the stove and poured the peanut oil that was still lacking an exclusive title for the time being. TSK, the little rooster hugged its wings together and stood there like it didn't recognize anyone. Girl, start the fire. Wait. Jun Changshao changed his words and said, I'll do it myself. Whoosh whoosh. In an instant, all kinds of divine and saint-tier flames poured into the stove, burning the cauldron wildly. The little rooster said in surprise, this should be a special fire-type body, no wonder it's qualified to be my master. When Jun Changshao heard this, his anger flared up even more. So I have to see if I'm qualified to be your master. Fine. Wait. Goody. After a while, the oil in the pot started to boil. Shwa. Jun Changshao grabbed the little rooster and hung it above the pot. Fried chicken is not bad. What flavor does Patriarch like? Cumin. Yes. Lu Wancher put the cumin powder on the chopping board. Chili powder. Yes. 2 demons. Little Rooster, who was originally quite arrogant, felt the heat rising from the oil pot below and immediately became a little timid. He said, this young master is invulnerable to fire and water, not an ocean of oil. Stop talking nonsense. Get down. Shwa. Jun Changshao waved his hand and threw the little rooster down. Zizizi. The sound of frying oil could be heard. Woo woo woo, the little rooster, which had fallen into the oil pan, seemed to have burned calories as it jumped up and down with its wings and claws. God. Lu Wanchers, that's not it. Lu's to be a god to since he used the holy fire to heat it, the oil in the pot would definitely be boiling. Not to mention a newly hatched rooster, even the purple craggy demon king's hand would be fried to a crisp by the explosion. This guy is quite capable. Woo woo woo. The little rooster was still jumping up and down in the frying pan. It was still crying out, Master, I was wrong, Master, save me. Shwa. Jun Changshao waved his hand and removed the pressure on the pot. He didn't plan to fry the newly hatched contract beast. He just wanted to see if this guy was bragging. Now that it was dancing in the pot, it proved that it had some ability. Poochie. Without the pressure, the rooster jumped out of the pot and stood on the chopping board. Its claws were swollen and almost cooked. Jun Changshao sat down and said, Tell me, what else do you have? Since it was an opportunity left by Guan Hai and mutated under his efforts, even if it was just a rooster, there should be something special. Otherwise, he could only fry it. Master. The little guy wailed, I really am a descendant of the vermilion bird. A rooster can be related to the vermilion bird? Do you think I'm an idiot? Jun Changshao said. Sigh. The rooster sighed, I don't know why I'm like this. It's completely different from the inherited memories. Inherited memories? Jun Changshao was confused. The system said, some mutated beasts gain inherited memories after birth. So you're saying that you're not a rooster? Jun Chang laughed. Yes. The rooster collapsed, I should be in a peacock form. Oh, is that so? Jun Changshao looked at it suspiciously. The system said, Host, I think there might be a problem with the incubator. If the mutation is successful, it might change form. There's such a thing. Jun Changshao was shocked. The system continued, the Purple King once said that the baby dragon was stolen from the dragon's territory, and it was an extremely rare 5-clawed divine dragon. It hatched into a lizard-like form. Jun Changshao frowned, so you're saying that if it hatches normally, it might hatch into a 5-clawed divine dragon, but if it mutates in the incubator, its form will change? Correct, the system answered. The reason it came to this conclusion was because of the second incubation. The opportunity left by a powerful being from the upper realm was a rooster. This was definitely illogical and embarrassing. Combined with the incubation process of the baby dragon, he couldn't help but guess that the incubator not only had a mutation mechanism, but also a transformation mechanism. If that's the case, then it's a bit of a scam. Jun Changshao didn't care about its form and said, I don't care if you're a rooster or a descendant of the vermilion bird. You must prove your worth with your strength, otherwise. He pointed at the pot of oil and said, get in. I have strength, I have strength. The little rooster said, I can crow every day at a fixed time to wake up the sleeping humans and let them get up to work. Jun Changshao broke down, with your strength, even the most ordinary rooster can do it. Ordinary roosters can't do it. If you don't believe me, please listen carefully, master. The little rooster supported itself with one leg and then took a deep breath before raising its head and crowing, woo, 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 woo. Woo! The space trembled and turned into ripples that spread outward, instantly enveloping the entire sect of all times, causing the disciples who were cultivating to be shocked. What's that sound? A rooster crowing? Oh my god, isn't it too loud? I feel like even Qingyang City can hear this shout, right? That's right. The residents of Green Sun City who were hundreds of miles away heard the roosters crowing, so they all looked in the direction of Mount Ironbone, their eyes filled with surprise. Swoosh! Peppa Wild Boar, who had been busy for half a day, just happened to have time to rest. When it heard the crowing, it immediately stood up and rushed to the wasteland, releasing its earth element to explore. The most amazing thing was that it didn't feel tired at all even though it was originally very tired. It was the same for the disciples of the sect of all times. Some of the disciples who were trying to break through a small stage or a big stage and were having trouble stabilizing their state of mind heard the crowing and immediately entered the state of breakthrough. Jun Changshao also felt that the sound had the effect of refreshing and calming the mind, so he said in surprise, is it really that amazing? Master! The little rooster said proudly, can an ordinary rooster do that? Interesting. Jun Changshao touched his chin and smiled, I can make it crow every morning to wake the disciples up, then let them cultivate for the whole day. Chapter 929. The disciples of the sect of all times were very disciplined. Every morning, they would wake up on time, go to the gym, eat breakfast, and then start the day's training. There was no need to let the rooster crow. However, the voice of the hatchlings had the effect of refreshing and calming the mind, so it was actually quite good to shout at the top of his lungs every day. Ooh ooh ooh. The next day, when the first glimmer of dawn had just appeared, the little rooster was already at his post. Standing alone in the main hall, he raised his head and squawked. His voice reverberated throughout the entire sect. The disciples who were sleeping soundly got up and washed up when they heard the sound of fighting. Then, they gathered at the training field, each of them full of energy. Not bad, not bad. Jun Changshao, who was standing in front of the main hall, saw that they were full of energy and a smile appeared on his face. There were many martial arts facilities in the sect. Although they could help the disciples break through faster, they could only become stronger if they put all their energy into cultivation. Ah! Master, save me! At this moment, a cry for help came from above the main hall. Where did this wild chicken come from? How dare you disturb this great ant's sleep? The barefooted Xiao Moxian, who was wearing loose pajamas, grabbed the rooster and began to crazily grind it against the tiles. For a time, chicken feathers flew everywhere. Scram! Little Long Long jumped up and said coldly, let me teach him a lesson. Tsk, Xiao Moxian rolled her eyes at him and then casually tossed the little rooster aside. She took a deep breath and said, Master said that I had to be reserved, that I had to be a lady. Shwa! Little Long Long waved his hand and grabbed the guy who had disturbed his sleep. Flames immediately erupted from his palm. Ah, after the sun rose, the little rooster curled up in a corner and wiped away his tears with his charred wings. He lamented in his heart, I'm a descendant of the vermilion bird. How could I be bullied like this? Swish! Suddenly, the sound of wind breaking could be heard. The weeping rooster immediately sensed that something was wrong. It hurriedly spread its wings and jumped up. However, just as it rose half a meter, it was instantly hit by the happy football. Then, with a bang, it sank into the wall. Strange. Li Fei, who was on the training grounds, was puzzled. Why is it jumping? Elder Wei. Jun Changshao stood outside the main hall and said, this little guy will stay with Peppa in the herb garden for the time being. Yes. As a result, the herb garden gained another member. Peppa the wild boar was in charge of exploring while Little Rooster was in charge of crowing. By the way, how's the new medicine coming along? Jun Changshao asked. Elder Wei said, it's all thanks to Pei Chi's hard work in reclaiming the land every day. Now, the initial stage has been completed. The scale is also larger than before, so we can plant more medicinal herbs in batches. Medicinal herbs are very important to our sect. Elder Wei, you have to worry about them. Jun Changshao exhorted. Although he had the system and had set up many martial arts facilities, the number of disciples was increasing. In order for them to improve steadily, the most important thing was to refine all kinds of medicinal herbs. Elder Wei said, in the past few years, Sun Bukong and the others have also grown up. They will only grow faster and faster in terms of planting. Yes. Jun Changshao chatted with him for a while longer before using the teleportation portal to enter the planar battlefield. During this period of time, Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others had been building in the stronghold that was about a few dozen acres in size. Now, they had begun to take shape. Whether it was a village or a town, the most important thing was the road. Therefore, there was a road in the central area that could allow 4 carriages to pass side by side. It was paved with limestone. Due to the limited area, there were very few buildings. If one wanted to get rich, they had to open the road first. In Li Qingyang's construction, this limestone road was the main street of the Starfall Continent stronghold. In the future, when the area expanded, it would be expanded with the main hall as the center. Not bad, not bad. After inspecting it, Jun Changshao nodded in satisfaction. He then flew out of the stronghold and headed toward the endless sky. The few times he came to the planar battlefield, he was either fighting or on the way to battle. He had not properly inspected this place, so he decided to go out and take a look today. Jun Changshao would not have dared to go out alone before he was sure of the power of the modified unstoppable blade. Now, he was completely fearless. Look! It's that crazy guy who killed so many people. The Starfall Continent's god of slaughter has come out. Everyone, run! Whoosh! 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 In a certain area of the battlefield, dozens of martial artists from the 2 existential planes were staring at each other. When they saw Jun Changshao fly over, they fled in panic like frightened rabbits. If it had been before the opportunity, they might have joined forces to fight the Starfall Continent. However, after learning that tens of thousands of existential planes martial artists had been killed, they could not summon any courage. Palace Master. In the main hall of the Scarlet Sea Continent stronghold, an elder hurriedly walked in and said with a serious expression, Jun Changshao has come out again. What? Hong Yao stood up in shock and said, Quick! 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 Inform everyone that they are not allowed to leave the stronghold. The elder said, I've already given the order. Hong Yao sat down and recalled the scene of that guy wearing a mask and killing thousands of people. Cold sweat immediately appeared on his forehead. After the Lingyun continent learned that Jun Changshao had appeared on the battlefield, they quickly ordered their martial artists to hide in the stronghold and not go out without permission. To be able to scare the 2 existential planes to this extent. After the Battle of the Opportunity, Gosheng had really transformed into a great demon king on the battlefield that made martial artists tremble in fear. However, he was very annoyed now. As long as he flew to an area, all the martial artists would instantly disappear. How would he expand the stronghold in the future? Right now, we haven't even reached the village scale. It will definitely take longer to develop to the scale of a town, Jun Changshao murmured. To be honest, not counting that period of time and the epic mission, this guy had only been on the battlefield for a few days. To be able to develop the stronghold to such a scale was already very fast. Sister, Jun Changshao asked, is there a faster way to increase the size of the stronghold? Yes. The female system's sweet voice came, there are many opportunities hidden in the battlefield. Dear participant, you can find them in advance and take them for yourself before the seal is unlocked. The area will automatically increase. How do I find them? Find them with your heart. Jun Changshao suddenly stopped. At the end of his vision, there was a tall mountain that seemed to be hidden in the clouds. At the top was a flag with the words "Vast Continent" written on it. Without a doubt. When he was flying around in boredom, he came to the vicinity of the stronghold of the vast continent. Jun Changshao released his spiritual senses and found that there were not only buildings comparable to cities on the mountain, but also layers of walls built on the mountain path. It was like a military fortress with mountains and rivers on one side, so he was quite shocked. This stronghold is amazing. Dear participant, the vast continent belongs to the first tier of existential planes and is also the first batch of existential planes to enter. It's normal for it to have such a scale today, the female system said. Sigh. Jun Changshao sighed and said, when can my falling star continent develop to such a scale? Wait. This area was clearly a plain area. Why was there a tall mountain all of a sudden? The female system said, they piled it up themselves. The terrain of the battlefield can be modified. As long as the participant has the means to modify the terrain, even if the stronghold is built high up in the sky, it won't be a problem. Built high up in the sky? Lord Changshao's eyes immediately lit up. That's pretty awesome. Swish. He gave up on visiting the battlefield and returned to the stronghold. After entering, he took out the terrain modification device and said, although this thing can't make the ground float, it can be propped up with formations. Chapter 930. Jun Changshao hurriedly returned to the stronghold after learning that the terrain of the planar battlefield could be changed. He prepared to use the terrain modification device to raise the safety zone, similar to the one on the vast continent. It couldn't be copied. It had to be innovated. As long as the participants have the means to modify the terrain, it won't be a problem to build the stronghold high up in the sky. The female system's words gave Jun Changshao a bold idea. He wanted to build the stronghold on the Starfall continent into a floating city. Ha! Li Qingyang was dumbfounded when he heard this. Building the stronghold in the sky with a formation? The patriarch's idea was too ridiculous. Whoosh! The terrain modification device flew out quickly and extended its mechanical claws like a spider. It attached itself to the ground and began modifying the terrain. Because it was inconvenient for construction, the disciples all stopped. However, they were a little surprised when they learned that the patriarch wanted to build a floating city. They were also a little expectant. Let's go back to the sect. Jun Changshao led the disciples back to the sect of all times. He then went to the formation peak to find Elder Zhen and told him his bold idea. This. Zhen Dejuan was silent for a moment. If we use a concealment formation and a defensive formation, we should be able to support the heavy ground. Not the ground. Jun Changshao said, it's the mountains. Zhen Dejuan's mouth twitched. A mountain is very heavy. Although the formation can support it, it will consume energy every second. Therefore, we will have to send people to maintain it at fixed times. Nothing permanent? Jun Changshao asked. No, Patriarch, Hall Master Zhen. Shengguan Xinyao said, we can set up the 5 elements formation in the Mystic 32 formations. This formation uses the power of the 5 elements to complement each other and can operate continuously. Zhen Dejuan was enlightened. That's right. There was a formation in the mystic 32 formations called the Five Elements Formation. Not only could it be used for defense, but it could also be used for attack. It could be said to be both offensive and defensive. Because it used the power of the five elements, as long as it was set up, it would exist continuously. But, Zhen Dijuan said, without enough power of the five elements, it is very difficult to set up such a formation. Some of the formations in the mystic 32 formations required a specific type of energy to maintain. It wasn't something that could be operated just by knowing the formations and formations. I do, Jun Changshao said. During this period of time, he had been cultivating quite hard, especially activating the five elements body at all times to cultivate the power of the five elements in the spirit nucleus. Now, it had already reached a small scale. The next day, Li Qingyang and the others once more entered the planar battlefield, but found themselves high up in the air. After a night of modification, the falling star continent stronghold had protruded to a height of at least 10,000 feet. In just a few days, the mountain peak in the sect had appeared, so everyone could face it calmly. Yi Xingchen and He Wudi were shocked. The Patriarch's topographical modification treasure could even modify a plane created by a mighty being from the upper realm. Its quality must be extraordinary. I have sinned. Jun Changshao said, go down and lift the mountain. Yes. Xiao Ziji flew down and landed at the foot of the mountain. Whoosh whoosh. The earth element was released and seeped into the bottom of the mountain. The veins on his arms bulged as he lifted it up with a loud rumble. Truly, the strength to lift a mountain and the aura to conquer the world. Raise it a little higher. Jun Changshao flew down and said. Whoosh. Xiao Ziji lifted the mountain with both hands and flew up. Higher. Whoosh. Higher. Whoosh. Kill. Kill. 1,000 miles away, dozens of martial artists from two planes met at a corner. Because of the enmity between them, they started killing each other without saying a word. Energy and light flashed recklessly. It was gorgeous and colorful. However, in the midst of the battle, one of the martial artists pointed into the distance and exclaimed, "Look, what's that?" Everyone looked over and they were all dumbstruck. In the distant sky that he could see, there was an object slowly flying up into the sky. He squinted his eyes and observed carefully. He was sure that it was a mountain that wasn't too big. What's going on? That seems to be the stronghold of the falling star continent. Why is there a mountain flying up? Could this mountain be a supreme treasure? The two sides stopped fighting as their gazes locked onto the mountain that was slowly rising into the sky. Their gazes were filled with extreme confusion. What's that? The martial artists from further planes also noticed the abnormality in the sky. Just as they were extremely puzzled, the mountain flew to a sufficient height and stopped as if it had been frozen in time. Patriarch, is it done? It's done. Shwa. Shwa. On the ground of the stronghold, Jun Changshao waved his hands. Array flags flew out quickly and were inserted in fixed positions. After the array was set, he began to draw the lines. When everything was done, he released the five elements force in his body and quickly poured it into 5 fixed points. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth fused together. Suddenly, 5 different lights flashed and quickly spread to the various lines and connected, forming an endless cycle. Wang! 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 The array light curtain rushed to the sky and then supported the floating mountain. Come down. Yes. Xiao Ziji removed the power and then landed on the ground. He looked up at the mountain that had been stable all along and the corner of his mouth twitched. The Patriarch's method was really unconventional. The mountain modified by the modification device was supported by the 5 elements great array. As long as it wasn't seriously damaged, it would definitely be stable in the sky. Shwa! Shwa! Once again, Jun Changshao began to set up isolation arrays in the surroundings. Then, he concealed all the array barriers formed by the 5 elements grand array. At this point, a mountain that looked like it was suspended in the sky appeared from the outside. The system broke down. Host is so boring. In its opinion, it was better to refresh the store and buy items. Jun Changshao stood on the floating mountain and said, "This is called ostentatious." It was really ostentatious. When the martial artists of various planes found that the floating mountain didn't rise or fall for several days in a row, they began to talk about it. Someone boldly flew over and stopped 100 miles away. When he found that the falling star continent's martial artists were busy building on the floating mountain, his eyes widened. Could this be a floating mountain? For a time, the news about the floating mountain in the sky of the falling star continent spread wildly on the battlefield. Some high-level planes didn't believe it at first. When they sent people to investigate and confirmed that there was indeed a floating mountain, they were deeply shocked. Awesome! How did they do it? Maybe there's an array supporting it below. Although an array can support a mountain, it is still heavy. If they don't find a large number of array masters to reinforce it, it won't last long. The martial artists of various planes were discussing the principle of the floating mountain. Some guessed that it was because of the array. They all agreed that the falling star continent was just wasting manpower and resources to attract attention. It was true that they wanted to attract attention. As for the manpower and resources, except for the trouble at the beginning, when the power of the 5 elements and the 5 elements great array complemented each other, they didn't have to worry about oil leakage at all. They didn't need to maintain it on a daily basis. The area is still too small. Jun Changshao sat on a huge rock at the top of the mountain and said, "Why don't we hold up a few more mountains?" In his idea, a floating mountain was just the beginning. If the conditions allowed, he would build a floating mountain range. Even if it was the kind that could shock people from afar. So, the area of the stronghold also needed to be expanded as soon as possible. How to expand it? Only the female system said to look for opportunities that hadn't been unsealed in the plain battlefield. Chapter 931. There were many opportunities in the dimensional battlefield. Only those that reached the time limit and were unsealed would be announced. As for those that were sealed, it would depend on who could find them. Many dimensions that met the requirements would continue to send mainland forces to guard them because they wanted to look for opportunities. For example, Mo Shangsheng had mobilized a lot of forces from the city. He would send martial artists to wander around the battlefield every day. If they were lucky, they might find something by accident and obtain the good stuff left behind by the upper realm powerhouses. Jun Changshao did not care about opportunities. After all, could they be stronger than the items in the store? However, he had to be careful when he expanded the area of the stronghold after he found it. A few years later, martial artists from the falling star continent would come in. If he expanded the stronghold in advance and charged for it, he would definitely make a lot of money. Moreover, after seeing the stronghold of the boundless continent, Gosheng was stimulated. He had to build his own territory to be more magnificent and luxurious than theirs. You guys build mountains? I'll do it too. It'll be dangerous. You build walls? I'll do it too. I'll use mountains as fences. Jun Changxiao's idea was simple. Since he came to the dimensional battlefield, he could not slack off. He had to be the most pretentious, and the stronghold had to be the most awesome. The system said, there are treasure hunting devices in the store that can help the host achieve his goals. High-level store. Middle-level store. Swoosh! Jun Changxiao opened the system store without hesitation and said, for the stronghold, let's go all out. It would take too long to increase the area by killing people. The best way was to look for opportunities in the battlefield. Therefore, he was willing to spend contribution points to expand the stronghold. Ding! 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 The system refreshed again and again, and the items changed again and again. The system said, host, you've become too wild now. The dimensional battlefield was like a huge world. Not only were there planes, but there were also many towering mountains and dark forests. This was not. To the west, there was a primeval forest that stretched for thousands of miles. There were no birds or beasts here, but there were many hidden traps. If martial artists were to enter, they would lose their lives if they were not careful. Logically speaking, no one should enter such a dangerous place. However, today, there were dozens of martial artists in black robes walking carefully. In the middle of the crowd, a middle-aged man with a goatee and dressed in Taoist robes was holding a compass with his eyes closed. Buzz! Suddenly, the compass started to spin. The strange words engraved on it began to glow faintly. After a while, the light dimmed and the needle pointed in a certain direction. The middle-aged man opened his eyes and said, "Elder son, according to my deduction, there must be an unsealed opportunity hidden here." "Are you sure?" The white-haired old man at the front said. "Elder Sunday," the Taoist priest said seriously, "I'm a professional when it comes to deduction. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been invited by the patriarch of your sect." Elder Sun realized that his tone of questioning was a little impudent, so he cupped his hands and apologized. "Hiro Michinaga's deduction technique is famous throughout the universe. This son spoke incorrectly just now." Hiro Michinaga raised his eyebrows and looked towards the southwest. "The opportunity is in this area, but there are many traps. Leave it to us." Elder Sun led the group forward cautiously. Because they had entered this place before, they quickly dispelled many of the traps. Boom! At this moment, a deafening roar came from the depths of the forest. A few hundred feet in front of them, flames shot into the sky as if there was a huge explosion. Someone triggered the explosion array. Elder Sun and the others' expressions changed slightly. They had not only encountered this kind of explosion when they first came here, but they had also personally experienced it. The result was disastrous, so it left a deep impression on them. Whoosh! Suddenly, a stream of light flew out from the explosion and landed lightly on the ground not far away. A young man in red and white battle robes and a mask appeared. Elder Sun and the others were stunned. This guy had obviously triggered the explosion array, but he had flown out unscathed. It was a little unbelievable. "Damn it!" The masked young man cursed and said, "There are so many traps." After saying this, he didn't even look at the nearby cultivators and flew away. Boom! Boom! In just a few hundred feet, he triggered another 2 explosion arrays, but he still flew out safely. Oh my god! He rushed out so recklessly. Is this guy a heaven-level cultivator? The appearance of the masked man in battle robes was nothing more than a small interlude. It did not disrupt Elder Sun and the others' search for the existence in the southwest direction. No! Not long after they left, Hiro Michinaga's expression changed drastically. He said, "The aura of the opportunity one locked onto is gone." Gone? Elder Sun was stunned. "What do you mean?" Hiro Michinaga said in a low voice, "It should be taken away by someone." Ha! Elder Sun and the others widened their eyes. When they continued forward and safely passed through the hidden traps, they arrived at the location of the compass deduction. There was only a huge pit left. "It's gone, gone." Hiro Michinaga broke down. It was really taken away by someone. Elder Sun said angrily, "There was still an aura just now. How could it be taken away in the blink of an eye?" "It's him." Hiro Michinaga suddenly thought of something and said with certainty, "It's that masked man in battle robes." Elder Sun and the others also unanimously believed that the opportunity was taken away by that guy. After all, there were no other martial artists in this area. Who is it that stole the opportunity found by our jingling continent? Elder Sun, judging from that guy's clothes, he seems to be the martial artist from the Falling Star continent who killed so many people that he went crazy. Yes, yes. That's him. I remember now. Whoosh! In the floating stronghold of the Falling Star continent, Jun Changshao quickly entered and took off his mask. He took out an item that looked like a tortoise shell and said, "Is this a defensive artifact?" Dear participant, this is the 6-word tortoise seal left by a mighty figure from the upper realm. According to the quality of the battlefield, it belongs to the Earth level. The female system's sweet voice sounded. There are heaven-level treasures above it? Yes. Then it's a bit ordinary. The system broke down. The Earth-level treasures in the battlefield are comparable to the Saint-level treasures of the Falling Star continent. The host actually thinks it's ordinary. Fuck. Jun Changshao roared. I spent 20,000 contribution points to get a treasure explorer, and I only got a Saint-level treasure in exchange. It's a huge loss. There's more than one opportunity in the battlefield. The host can continue to search with the treasure explorer. The system roared. That's true. Jun Changshao calmed down. The treasure explorer was not a one-time consumable item. It could be used again. If he could find 700 to 800 of such treasures, he would definitely make a profit. 700 to 800 of them? Why didn't he want to find 70,000 to 80,000 and have one for each of his disciples? Patriarch. Li Qingyang hurried over and said excitedly, the stronghold's area has expanded by a lot. After Jun Changshao obtained the 6-word tortoise seal and successfully returned to the stronghold, his territory had expanded by another 10,000 square meters. Not a loss. The system roared. Jun Changshao said, not a loss. Spending 20,000 contribution points in exchange for a high-grade Saint-grade defensive artifact, and the expansion of his stronghold was definitely worth it. Continue, continue. Jun Changshao waved his hand and took out the treasure explorer from his spatial ring. This item was similar to Hiro Michinaga's compass. However, in terms of form and precision, it was more professional than Hiro Michinaga's item. Buzz! Spiritual thoughts entered and the item was activated. Swish, swish, swish. The device inside, which looked like a minute hand, spun wildly until it stopped. 3 or 4 light spots appeared in a certain direction. Damn! Jun Changshao said in surprise, there are actually 3 opportunities hidden in that area. Chapter 932. The martial artists on the battlefield had been very irritated recently because they had used various means to determine some possible opportunities. However, when they tried their best to break it open, they found that there was nothing inside. This is not right. On a certain hill, seeing that there was nothing in the broken space, an old man in green clothes pulled his hair and shouted, "There is an opportunity hidden here. Why is it gone?" This kind of situation that made people collapse happened one after another in other places. The martial artists who had come here with confidence all left in disappointment. Second senior brother. Xiao Ziji, who was standing at the edge of the mountain, looked at the stronghold that had expanded several times and said in disbelief, "How did the patriarch do it?" 3 days ago, when Jun Changshao returned to the stronghold, the area would expand by 10,000 square meters. Now, it had happened 4 or 5 times. At this speed, it would not be a problem to expand into a city, let alone a town. Li Qingyang, who was next to him, closed his eyes. His soul seemed to have flown out of his body. He looked down at the 70 to 80,000 square meters stronghold from the perspective of the Jade Emperor. Swoosh! His sea of consciousness evolved a 3D terrain model. First, there must be well-developed roads, whoosh. Whoosh. Horizontal and vertical bluestone roads were laid out on the model in the shape of the Chinese character Tian. The drainage system also needs to be equipped. Whoosh. Whoosh. The terrain model changed again. The main hall, buildings, and sentry towers also need to be equipped. As Li Qingyang was thinking, buildings appeared in his sea of consciousness one after another and then sat on the terrain model out of thin air. In a short time, a small town with complete facilities was being built as more and more buildings were being built. Whoosh! Li Qingyang opened his eyes, took out a piece of paper, and drew the pattern that he had conceived in his sea of consciousness. He did not neglect any detail. This kind of construction talent was really super strong. Whoosh! In the swamp with a strong stench, Jun Changshao flew over while dragging a stream of light. The light on the treasure detector in his hand became brighter, which meant that there was an opportunity. Suddenly, he found that in the sky far away, there were dozens of martial artists in uniform. Below them, there were complicated lines of formations. Was it discovered in advance by others? Forget it, forget it. I'll look for it somewhere else. There were many light spots on the treasure finder, which meant that there was more than one place nearby. In the dimensional battlefield, it was very normal to snatch the fortuitous encounters that others discovered in advance. There was no need to feel guilty about it. However, there were so many people on the other side, and there was even an Earth-ranked author among them. Thus, Jun Changshao did not want to waste time. At this moment, the cultivator who was cracking the seal on the fortuitous opportunity also discovered him. An old man with a cold gaze said, "Why is there someone here? You guys continue to decipher. This old man will go and get rid of this brat to prevent any news from leaking out." Shwa! After saying that, he flew over and stopped Jun Changshao, who was about to leave. His eyes were filled with boundless killing intent. These people came from the second-tier Rudra continent. They had long since discovered the fortune hidden in the swamp. After making their preparations, they came here today to solve it. Naturally, they didn't want to be discovered by outsiders. Jun Gosheng said indifferently, silencing them. Not bad. The Earth-ranked powerhouse didn't say another word. He erupted with vigorous attributes, forming dense palm prints that pressed forward. Judging from the intensity of the attacks, it was obvious that he wanted to quickly finish off his opponent. Boom! Boom! Scorching flames rose, instantly breaking all the palm prints that pressed down. The surrounding air instantly became hot and dry. The Earth-ranked powerhouse's expression changed. The killing move that he had condensed was actually broken so easily. The blazing flames gradually dissipated, revealing Jun Changshao, who was wearing a scarlet armor with a lotus pattern engraved on it. He held a strange shield in his left hand and a pitch-black spear in his right hand. He stood proudly in the air, a cold light flashing in his eyes. Scarlet lotus armor. Desolate spirit shield. Black dragon fatal spear. These three pieces of equipment were recently found by fortuitous opportunities. Any one of them would be enough to fill the author with several chapters of awesome equipment. Finding them in just a few days showed how awesome the treasure finder was. Seeing this, the Earth-ranked powerhouse's eyes almost popped out. This guy who was suddenly fully armed was wearing Earth-ranked equipment from head to toe. At that moment, he subconsciously used his sleeve to cover the Xian-ranked treasure on his wrist. After all, compared to this guy, it was simply too embarrassing. Sorry. The Earth-ranked powerhouse cupped his hands and said, "This old man mistook you for an enemy." Instant cowardice. Facing this kind of martial artist. A martial artist who had cultivated for thousands of years was definitely not to be trifled with. No. Jun Changshao, who was fully equipped, said expressionlessly, "You didn't recognize the wrong person. We are now enemies, so, Xiao." Exploding down, flames were released all over the sky. "You should just die." Boom! Boom! The Tualuo continent's martial artists who were deciphering the fortuitous opportunities in the swamp heard a loud noise coming from afar, as well as bursts of scorching heat. They all turned their heads to look. Flames were erupting from there, like a burning furnace. Shwa! Suddenly, a man wearing scarlet armor walked out from the flames in the sky, holding a pitch-black spear in his hand, and a person was hanging on the spearhead. Old he! Everyone exclaimed. That Earth-ranked powerhouse could no longer hear them. Because his heart had been pierced by the black dragon fatal spear, his soul had already flown to the ninth heaven. Shwa! Jun Changshao threw out the corpse hanging on the spear, and flames appeared all over his body. His voice was cold as he said, "This lord wants the fortuitous opportunities here." At that moment, he was like an emotionless killing god who walked out of the volcanic hell. Huff huff. Under the eruption of scorching flames, the temperature around the swamp rose sharply. The Tualuo continent's martial artists were covered in sweat, and the shock in their eyes became more and more intense. Even the Earth-ranked old he was killed. They didn't think they had the ability to contend with the other party, so they made the right choice in the shortest time, giving up on the fortuitous opportunities, and fled into the distance together. If it was at the beginning, Jun Changshao might have killed them to expand the stronghold. Now that finding a fortuitous opportunity would give him tens of thousands of square meters, so he was too lazy to kill a group of yellow-ranked powerhouses at the cost of a red name. Xiao. Flying over, he landed in front of the formation. With this level of formation, it's simply a waste of time to break the seal. Jun Changshao waved his hand, and his spiritual energy spread around, instantly crushing all kinds of formations and lines. Then, he released his spiritual thoughts and communicated with the restriction in the dark. The fortuitous opportunities left in the battlefield by the upper realm were sealed with fixed concealment formations. If they weren't discovered and broken within a certain time, they would be automatically unsealed, and then the various realms would fight over them. Jun Changshao slightly connected with the concealment formation, and said in surprise, "This formation seems to be more complicated than the ones that were broken before. Could it be that it hides an extraordinary fortuitous opportunity?" 10 minutes later, he found a flaw in the formless formation, and slightly modified the internal structure. Space distorted, and the formation suddenly collapsed, gradually revealing an arched door. Jun Changshao walked in as if it was nothing out of the ordinary. He walked along the tunnel for about 100 steps, and came to a spacious stone room. 8 large pillars were arranged in different positions, and lifelike birds and beasts were carved on them. A stone platform protruded from the center area. Thud! Jun Changshao walked over. On the stone surface that was as smooth as a mirror, there was a sailboat about the size of a palm, and the words "archaic worship" were carved near it. "What's this?" Jun Changshao asked in surprise. The system said, "Obviously, it's a treasure that can be used to sail. It doesn't seem to be of much use. If the host doesn't plan to go to the 3 large regions overseas, it definitely won't be of much use." Aren't you telling the reader a spoiler by saying that? As Jun Changshao spoke, he released his will into the archaic worship, instantly establishing a connection with it and forcibly obtaining a memory inheritance. Then, he said in surprise, "This ship is used to fly." You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.